Good morning. This is the JP Dinnell Podcast, episode 99. I am JP Dinnell, and always I have Lucas with me. So today we are sitting down again with our guest, Joe Reyna. He was a guest on episode 70. If you have not listened to that episode, go back and listen to that before you dive into this episode so you can learn a little bit more about Joe, hear some of his incredible stories that were I loved hearing those stories. It's like a love-hate thing when you hear those stories. I love hearing combat stories. I've always been intrigued by them. But it's also hard to hear them from one of your good close friends, just knowing what they endured and what they went through. But he has some awesome stories from his deployment to Afghanistan, and we're going to build off of some of those, I'm sure. We also plan on diving deeper into his career today as a Marine, discuss how his family and marriage have been impacted by his career in the military, and I'm really looking forward to just the opportunity to have Joe back on here. I appreciate you coming back on, my man.
Sure, thank you.
How have you been?
Good, man.
Yeah, I know. It was too long of a break between your episode and the first one and this one. I apologize. Lucas, what's up, bud?
What's going on? It's good to see Joe after 6 months.
I know.
I've been kind of like following him on Insta a little bit, and the one thing I've noticed is that there's less of Joe than there was 6 months ago.
Less of me?
Yeah, like
awesome.
You're like
slimming up,
slimming down.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm trying, man.
He's got nothing.
I just had one of my parents just told me the same thing. I was like, was I just obese? Like nobody told me at one point, and
so by one of your parents, you mean one of the parents of the Marines that you are putting through the process?
Correct. One of my applicants, he just went to boot camp a couple weeks ago. So
nice.
Sent him off, and he was in my program for about 7 months too. So tons of engagements with him, graduations, things like that. So
That's rad.
His mom, his parents in general, I've sat down with him numerous times. So
that's cool. Is it common for you to go to the graduation and just different life events for all of your recruits? Is that what you do?
Absolutely. I think it's a Marine Corps thing. It's a culture that we try to show that we are engaged, and it's a there's a lot of emotion that's there for us too, because like I said, there's some of my applicants. One of my first seniors from last year, I put him in the program in July of 2024. Mm-hmm. He went to boot camp in June of 2025.
Oh, geez.
So, tons of time with him, just kind of helping him out, building him, trying to get him physically, mentally, and emotionally ready to go to boot camp. So,
how many of these Marines are you able to stay in contact with once they make it through boot camp and they go on with their career? Do any of them reach out to you? Do you reach out to them? Or is it just kind of one of those things where your relationship is, hey, I'm going to get them prepared. I'm going to help them become young men and women that are ready to be Marines, and then they leave, and then once they're in, now they kind of shift?
No, one of my really just all-around good kid, he had a couple of medical issues that we had to work with, so I worked with him for a long time, and then by time we got him in the program, it was months before we got him out the door. So it was again probably another solid year that I worked with him, and he recently had a hip injury that I didn't even know about. I tried reaching out to him. I thought he should be back in a unit already. Tried reaching out to him, he wasn't answering, and then his mom posted pictures on Instagram that he had just had hip surgery, and it was like 19-year-old kid. And just had an injury. Mom flew out to California. He ended up coming back home on convalescent leave and came by he was coming by, brought his sister by, trying to get her to join the Marines.
That's awesome. I know you've worked with a few of Aiden's buddies from Byron Nelson. Yep. Got them in the program, shipped off. I know Aiden's all fired up as well once he gets healthy again. I'm like, hey, get healthy, then go back and re-engage with Joe. And it's funny. It's something he talks to me about daily. Like, hey, what do you think about this? I'm like, well, And then there's other things. I'm like, that's a Joe Reyna question. That is, you need to talk to your recruiter about that question. So, all right. So, last episode was pretty intense. I mean, just blown up 3 different times. Correct? Just within what was that window? It was less than a month, right?
No, that I think all three happened. Well, about what been a month span.
Mm-hmm.
It was a 7-month deployment, but yeah, just tragedy just seemed to continue to find me within that short term.
Lost a few of your close buddies.
Yes, sir.
Leaders that you really looked up to. So bring us home from that deployment, and what was next for you?
So basically coming back, because that workup for that deployment was so long, it didn't leave me a lot of time on my contract left. So it now came down to the decision factor of either extend for the next deployment or, get out.
Mm-hmm.
And, initially I was on board. I wanted to extend. I wanted to stay with the guys. These are all my buddies that we just finished our first deployment with. So now we're going to go into this next deployment, not as junior Marines anymore, but in leadership positions. So I was super excited for that. And then just a lot of conflict between leadership and myself, just not seeing eye to eye, and ultimately made the decision not to do that deployment and decided to stick back. I waited for them to go on deployment, went back with a remain behind element over at the regiment. And then when I found a career planner, told him that I was ready to re-enlist. And
yeah. That happens a lot to guys where they just either have issues with their leadership or they're burnout. So before we dive into this next little thing that I want to talk about, when you came back, was there any like programs that you went to or any support for, hey, you just lost a bunch of your friends, you got blown up 3 times in a one month period, like your brain is legitimately rattled, you've been bleeding out of your ears, like there's been a lot of physical and emotional damage. Hey, we're gonna get you some help. Was there any of that at the time?
Yeah, so there actually was, and definitely not to the extent that I needed it. I guess taking a backtrack a little bit, there was one of the units. So basically, out in 5th Marines, there's 3 primary units that were out there. First, 1-5, 2-5, and 3-5. I was in 3-5. 1-5 came and replaced us in Afghanistan. 2-5 was getting ready to go replace them. 2-5 needed some, not combat replacements, but they were trying to build up a ground unit within their weapons company. Weapons company is typically your heavy machine gunners, heavy mortarmen, things like that.
Okay.
They were trying to build up a ground side unit, ground detachments, so they needed some 11s to come over. So they were coming over to 3-5 saying, hey, you guys got any healthy dudes that want to come over, do this deployment with us, go back out to Afghan. A few of my friends got to volunteer. They were able to jump over. And because I hadn't been cleared from medical yet, I was basically put on hold. They told me, you need to get cleared. You need to make sure you get rid of all your stuff before you can go on it.
Okay.
So I went. I kind of dumb on my part, but I was like, hey, I'm healthy. I'm good. Just rushed through all of my treatment and then was done with it. I was seeing a psychiatrist, seeing a psychologist, just kind of talking about everything that I was dealing with at that time. And, when the opportunity for his deployment came up, I threw everything to the wayside and was like, I just want to go back. It was all I wanted to do.
That's a double-edged sword that our military leadership has to deal with, because you want guys that have that attitude and mindset that want to go. But at the same time, like, how do we make sure that they've gotten all the treatments that they need? Because guys are definitely not getting it. I know in the SEAL teams, it was guys would hide injuries. They would hide issues that they're having mentally with loss of teammates and stuff, because you didn't want to be ostracized. You didn't want to be shifted over to another, And so, man, that's got to be really hard for the leadership to be able to determine, like, where guys are at.
And that's where, they rely very heavily on the medical opinion, which is why there was a hold on me for so long. And then obviously me doing what I needed to do to get myself discharged from their care, it ultimately was to my detriment, because later on through these next few years, I definitely suffered with my mental health and everything that came with it. The relationships that I was building, it was extremely detrimental for everybody around me.
Okay. So you end up not deploying, and then you're on, we would call it rear detachment, rear det. So you're on this group, and then you decide, actually, I do want to stay in. You had a shift of emotions, which I remember my first deployment. I was like, I'm getting out. I'm contracting. This is BS. Like these guys are making all this money doing what we just did. And then you realize like actually being in the teams is actually really cool. And so I did the same thing. I ended up re-enlisting. And so you decided to re-enlist, and what was the next step for you?
So I mean, there was tons of amazing programs. They were actually built for people like myself. They were calling it, it was like an Op4 program where you opt in for 4 more years. But basically the way it worked is you do 2 years within the operating forces, and then you do 2 years as basically like a stand down. You get to go like work at the gym or do something cool.
That's
they
awesome.
call it a FAP for us.
Yeah.
Basically you just get to go do something relaxed for the last 2 years. There was a $25,000 re-enlistment bonus for me to go do that, and
Cash
then
money, baby.
duty station preference. They kind of dangled Hawaii out there for me, and so I was like, "You're telling me you're gonna pay me $25,000 plus let me live in Hawaii?" It's like, deal.
Done, son. All right, so so you go through that process, and then you end up heading to Hawaii.
Correct.
What was your wife's thoughts on all these things?
She was supportive. She so in the midst of this, I actually did look for opportunities. We were planning on staying out there in California. I was going through the hiring process with the Orange County Sheriff's Department.
Oh yeah.
Did a whole bunch of stuff. It was extremely demoralizing for me, just because I wore this chip on my shoulder that like, the world owes me something, and turns out Orange County Sheriff's Department didn't care how many combat deployments I was on and how many combat patrols I did, and yeah, none of it mattered apparently. And so it was a really tough thing for me to deal with emotionally. And then, you know, my wife saw that. She saw everything that I was going through. So then when the opportunity came up to re-enlist, she's like, yeah, let's do it. And then especially to go get stationed in Paradise, where people pay thousands of dollars a vacation.
Yeah.
We were going to get paid to live there. So
Seems like a win-win.
it was pretty
Awesome.
legitimate offer for us.
Dude, that's incredible. And how old were you at the time?
20?
Oh,
It
geez.
was 20 years old, maybe.
That's a terrible time to be at the beach.
No. I was 21. I actually turned 21 in Afghanistan. So I was getting ready to turn 22.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I had just my daughter. We had my daughter, and yeah, we were.
That's cool. Was she born in California? Or?
She was.
Okay.
She was born in Laguna Hills, California.
Nice. So you head out to Hawaii. What type of unit are you headed to?
Yeah, just another infantry unit. This is when I head out to 2nd Battalion, 3rd Marines. This is where Cody and I actually get to meet each other.
What was that first interaction with Cody like? Do you remember it?
So I knew of him coming to the unit, but when we got there, he went through. We both went through an advanced infantry course, and that's where we like truly like started to get to know each other. Was at that course, and then because it's for us, I think back then it was like a 7-week long course, and just really deep diving into advanced infantry, orders writing, tactics, things like that. It's a gut check.
Is it one of those courses where people can select out or self-select out? Like if they're not doing well, they get kicked out or they can quit?
You definitely, there's tons of guys were getting dropped from that course. This is one. It's definitely not one of those ones that everybody graduates.
Okay.
Yeah, tons of people fail out. You can, if your peer evaluations are low enough, you can get dropped for things like that. There's definitely ways to get kicked out of it, and
I'm a big fan of peer evals and shifting people out.
oh, it's the equalizer.
It is.
I mean,
Makes you think about those relationships and also how hard you work and doing the right things and everything else like that. So you and Cody are there together. So when you make it through, you guys call it IA, right? AI. Advanced Infantry.
It was advanced infantry course back then. It's probably
AIC
changed.
Or something.
It's
like
probably
that.
changed 5 times since then. It started off as ISLIC. It was infantry squad leaders course, and then went to AIC, and then Yeah, just constantly evolving. It's essentially our second iteration of infantry tactics.
Okay. So you make it through that. What's the benefit other than just having those skill sets? Is there any benefit to going through that course? Does it give you preferential positions or treatment, or does it allow you to move into leadership positions faster?
So so for us, being a squad leader, being a team leader, this isn't something that like, hey, we're just going to put you there because there's a hole to be filled. It's something that going through these courses and actually graduating, there's a lot of not preferential treatment, but people look to you now for that. They seek you out for that advice, knowing that you've been through those courses.
Dude, that's awesome.
And it's kind of the equalizer out on the infantry when you start to look at guys and what have you done? You've been ISLIC? You've been AIC? And no? Okay, get in the back. But yeah, it was, and I actually didn't graduate during that term because I got dropped. I dislocated my shoulder out at a workout. We were doing pistol belt drags up a hill.
Oh, cool.
And the guy that was, I was being dragged. I was holding onto his pistol belt, and it was a tough climb. And as he jolted up one of the times, it ripped my shoulder out of socket. I tried to stay in the course, and they're just like, yeah, man, like, it's not even worth it. Just go heal, come back, take care of yourself.
Okay. Did you ever get to go back to that course or no?
I did. I eventually went back after the next deployment, but yeah, I ended up right after I got dropped. I didn't realize, so I had previous injuries with it, motorcycle accidents, things like that, and they've always allowed me to do physical therapy to avoid surgery.
Yeah.
And then I guess this time was just so bad enough that the doctor's like, your options are no longer physical therapy. It's do the surgery or get out of the Marine Corps, because without this, you're useless.
Dang, that sucks, man.
So August of 2013,
Yeah.
I had reconstructive surgery on my left shoulder.
Good times.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't realize that you and I were both in the shoulder surgery club of just weak shoulders.
They wanted to do both, but so I still have never done my right one, which I need to, because even now I can, when I go to take my shirt off, sometimes my shoulder would just fall out. It's happened at the office too with parents in the office. It's super embarrassing.
Is your labrum torn and detached then, I guess? That's what's causing the subluxations?
I haven't got checked since 2013 when they did this one. They basically said that both shoulders were bad, but this one was worse off. So
Yeah.
they said they were like, obviously, we can't do both shoulders at the same time. I was like, why not? Like, you feel like your wife wiping you when you use the restroom? It's like, no. It's like, okay, you're going to need one of these arms.
Dude.
So
One of my buddies from the teams, he got in a dirt biking accident and broke both of his wrist and forearms. And so he was in 2 casts like that. And guys were like, man, you better be really nice to that current girlfriend you have. All right. So what was your first experience in Hawaii? What'd you and your wife go do? You get stationed there. You just kind of soaking it all in. What's the unit like? What's Hawaii like?
My ultimate first experience, my ultimate welcome aboard was, the first deployment I went on, as you know, you do deployments, you do cool things, you get ribbons. I was still a young guy, a corporal, E4, and I had quite a few ribbons for being as young as I was. And I'm checking into the unit. I'm in my service uniform, my service alphas, full suit, everything. Got all my ribbons on, and there's another E4 that's in there, and he's got like 3 ribbons. And he looked at me, and his words were, "Holy stack, bro." He's like, "Where'd you come from?" I was like, 3-5, man. He goes, "Done some deployments?" I said, I've done one. And he was just laughing. He goes, "What are you doing here?" It's like, "Checking in." And he goes, "Did you volunteer to come out here?" Or I said, "Yeah, man." He goes, "Why?" I said, "What do you mean? It's Hawaii." And he laughs in my face and he goes, "Ha! Good luck." And he walked away. I was like,
what does that mean?
Yeah, I was like, what? Is that my welcome aboard speech? How does this, what is going on? And it was there was a culture out there. I talk about it all the time too, and this is kind of why I have the mentality that I do right now with recruiting. The way I do is there's disgruntled individuals everywhere you go, and the fact that you can literally pay people to live in paradise and they're still just miserable individuals. There was a lot of that out there, and it's really easy to get submersed in that culture. But it was a really bad problem when I got there. Was a lot of just junior guys that had a really bad taste in their mouth for the Marine Corps, and
that's crazy.
Extremely vocal about it.
All right, so that's nice and encouraging as you're checking in. All right, so at what point do you link back up with Cody, and when are you kind of getting into the rotation of, or not the rotation, but getting just back into that cycle of, hey, I'm in a unit, we're gonna start training, this is what we're doing,
So I had my surgery. I'm kind of going through the recovery process. Cody's still finishing up school just because it's such a long school. And while he was gone, and I've told him this a couple times, and I think it's hilarious, we were going through like, hey, these are the different schools that we have coming up. And one of them was a McQuist. It's our water instructor survival course. Like one of the most,
it's pretty brutal, right?
Intense water. Like, you are an instructor for the water. You are the guy. So you have to be good. And Cody wasn't there to defend himself because he was still at AIC. So when they were going through and they're like, hey man, who can we send to this course? I was like, yeah, Cody Gandy. And I volunteered him, and when he graduated the course, he came back, and you're like, oh, hey, by the way, you go to McQuist in a couple weeks. He goes, what? I hate the water.
He turned out to be a pretty good, strong swimmer, though, right? Was that because of this course or no?
Cody is the anomaly. Cody's a stud at everything he does, man. I tell him all the time, because he always does his speech, when we do our Echelon Front events, and he talks about the honor grad, and this is something that for the courses. Yeah. So, obviously, Cody's so humble; he's never going to talk about himself. I promise you, I don't know a course that Cody's been to where he was not the honor grad out of it. Yeah. He was the honor grad out of boot camp. Mm-hmm. I
was there at his boot camp graduation.
He's one of the only guys that gets to wear his dress blue uniform because he was one of the honor grads. He got honor grad out of AIC. He was the honor grad out of the McQuist. He went to corporal's course. He was the honor grad. He did a McMap. It's our Marine Corps martial arts. Yeah. He went to become a martial arts instructor. Was the honor grad out of that. The guy's a stud.
That's awesome.
So I volunteered him for that.
Whenever we've done,
probably why he moved to Arizona. He's so sick of the water.
Whenever we've ever done workouts on the road for Echelon Front stuff, like Cody just obviously crushes me in the workouts. Right, he's just a stud. And I've obviously over the years let myself get off the path and not been in good shape like I should have, and he's just always maintained that. And age difference, whatever, that's not relevant. Like, I should have stayed on the path and kept going and doing, been where I was at. But there was the only time I've ever been able to like beat him in a workout was when we did a pool workout.
I think I've heard about it.
And you did, because I know it pissed him off. It made him so mad because we were doing sprints in the pool, and I was able to beat him in all of the sprints.
He was telling me about it. I think you guys did something over in when we were still working in Detroit. Yep. At that huge gym that we used to go to. Yeah. He was telling me, he's like, dude, JP's a dolphin, man. He's like, it's unreal.
Yeah, I just remember I could see he was frustrated. And Cody's like super stoic, like you said, a humble guy. And he actually, we were talking about it, and he made the comment. He was just like, man, I'm usually really good in the pool, but you beat me every time. But what little does he know, I was red line on every single one of those sprints, which you should be on a sprint. But anyway, so Cody goes to that school. Did you go to that school also?
No, absolutely. I swim like a rock. Yeah. I'm
We have
really
that
good.
in common.
I'm really good at going straight to the bottom. I can get there faster than most people. So
Don't you guys do a lot of water
We
stuff
do.
in boot camp?
we do. Not a whole lot. They spend about a week on it. But
Nothing too crazy then?
no, it's the basics for everybody. And then if you're good enough and you choose to go on to some of the more advanced, different quals that they have there, but even for me, like just making it through the basic one at boot camp
It was a lot.
It was. Yeah, I didn't learn to swim even till later on.
Oh, jeez.
I think maybe like in middle school sometime, which for me felt pretty late. But just making it through the basic was good enough for me. It was like, cool.
Which is crazy. You know, there's some guys that probably hadn't ever done that until like high school or right before the Marine Corps, and they're like, oh, I should probably learn how to swim.
There's guys, even I just talked to one of my applicants yesterday, and he said, Gunny, I have something to tell you. So what's up, brother? He goes, I can't swim. And he might be going to boot camp here on the 18th.
Oh my gosh, that stresses me out.
So I it doesn't stress me out at all because I know they do a really good job out there of if you can't swim, turn your blouse inside out. We're gonna keep an eye on you, and they will teach you the basics. They will get you through it.
I'm gonna tell Aiden just to have his blouse inside out no matter what. Just hey, bro, because he's not like he's a bad swimmer, but I know how those. Anyways, all
Bring
right.
your kickboard.
Yeah. So you don't go to that course. What's the next school for you?
I didn't go to another school for a little bit until we were on deployment. So yeah, we basically.
What was that training like? That cycle? You guys call it a workup also? Or?
Yeah, it's a workup. And because of my shoulder injury, I missed the entire workup. Didn't do any of it. I was supposed to be rehabbing the whole time, and I did what I had to do to get myself back into it, and then I basically just jumped back in with the platoon, went on a deployment, and we got out there. Cody was still at school because he was still learning how to be a swimmer, and then he came out a couple weeks later. But yeah, Cody and I ended up being roommates on deployment.
Oh wow!
So we went out to it was a UDP. It's a unit deployment program.
Yeah.
We go out to Okinawa. There's typically different opportunities for some units to go to different countries from there. One of the primary ones that we do is just presence in the Pacific. We go out to Korea, do a lot of work, cross training with the Korean Marines, the ROK Marines.
Yeah.
Some of those guys, they're absolute studs. So like Korea has mandatory service for all males, and the Marines in Korea, that's the only one that you can't be voluntold into. You can be forced into the Army or their Navy or any other branch. The Marines is the only one that you have to volunteer for.
Wow.
So those guys are a different breed, and they, on top of doing their country this service, they truly want to be there. So it was really cool getting to work with them.
What type of work were you guys doing with those guys?
So a lot of it is, it's kind of why it's so demoralizing for a lot of these guys. Just doing constant UDP after UDP, you're training. So the mentality becomes, okay, well, we're training just to go on deployment and continue training. Like we're training to train.
Yeah, that sucks.
And so when you get out there, you're still running ranges. You're still doing a lot of CQB, CQC. You're just live fire maneuver, live fire movement ranges, things like that. But a lot of it also becomes, that bilateral training. You're kind of showing these guys, your counterparts, hey, this is what right looks like, and then you get to do a lot of side-by-side stuff with them.
That's cool. As I said, that sucks. I was also just thinking, like, actually, it sucks, but it doesn't suck. I mean, I think it could have been framed differently from your leadership in regards to, like, hey, this is what we're doing, here's why.
And I think that's always been a huge downfall is you don't really express how important this is, right? Because like Korea, North Korea, South Korea, this is always it's been a thing since the 50s, right? Like it's a ceasefire.
It probably always will be, right?
So this can kick off at any point, right? So their success and our ability to stay out of it is wholly based on their ability to be successful.
And that comes from you guys training and equipping and helping, right?
So I think the more we get out there and the better job we do of training them and helping them get to the point that they need to be, that means more success on their part. That means less that we have to be involved. Mm-hmm. And so I think there's a lot of disconnect between trying to really emphasize that to the younger Marines. It's more so just...
What level do you think that disconnect comes in? Or comes out? Like, at what level are we just losing that? Because you see that in a lot of organizations that we work with at Echelon Front. You'll have the upper leadership that has this message, and they have these like goals and like, hey, commander's intent, and this is our mission, this is what we're trying to do. And then as it goes down in the organization, it fades away, and then you'll have people, you know, their frontline leaders that are out there complaining about the work or the environment or what's happening, and there's that, like, some organizations call it the clay layer, because they say the communication doesn't get up or down through that layer. And like, where do you think that happens in the Marine Corps?
For me, just speaking based on my
personal... And what you say is zero official representation of the Marine Corps. Yeah, this is your perspective.
Just strictly my perspective. You know, from the company down to the platoon there's a huge disconnect in there. And honestly, I think, just like I was talking about, right, is that toxic mentality that a lot of these guys have, like, oh, we're just going to train, and it's really contagious throughout the ranks, and it's something that a lot of these guys just they carry it over, and they continue to let it affect the next group of individuals that are coming through. Yeah. Even for somebody like myself, you know, I was coming from an extremely prestigious unit that, you know, 3-5 is extremely proud of their unit. Mm-hmm. To the point where, like, the battalion commander would come out every single time, and he would, an entire battalion of Marines. So 3-5 slogan is get some, and he would come out 1,000+ Marines and just sit there and stare for a good 10-15 seconds, and then the top of his lungs would just scream 3-5, and the whole battalion's like, get some, and it just insane. These guys loved it. And then you get out to Hawaii, and, you know, my introduction. Good luck.
Good luck. Sucks to be here in Hawaii, loser.
So yeah, it was things like that that, you know, I felt like truly affected. Yeah. The majority. How much
impact do you know, knowing what you know now as a gunnery sergeant, which is an E7, or often referred to as a gunny, right? Which Cody corrected me, because a few of my muster speeches, I was saying gunny sergeant, and he's like, hey, it's either gunny or gunnery sergeant. And I'm like, thank you. you know, and Cody's so good on his corrections. He's like, hey, I just want to give you a heads up in the Marine Corps. And I was like, oh, shoot, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to insult anybody. But as a gunnery sergeant, knowing what you know now, if you were to go back to a unit, what type of messaging would you be, you know, delivering to your guys to try to remove some of that, you know, disconnect or some of that bad culture?
I think more so just trying to be more relatable, and just trying to make, you know, down to the lowest level, feel like the things that they're doing actually has an impact, because it truly does. Yeah. And I think when they don't see the impact that it has, it's almost like you're doing this job to never get paid. And I feel like that's the payment, is to know the impact that you're having on what you're doing out there. So I think something along those lines would be probably the most beneficial for the culture too.
That is so important, man. That is something at Echelon Front we hit on, is, you know, people understanding why they're doing what they're doing and the impact, right? You know, one of the things at Echelon Front, our big focus is impact, reach, and growth. If we focus on impact, we can reach more. If we can reach more, we can grow as an organization. You know, and that's, for us as a business, that's really important, but it starts with impact. So if you can communicate to your people the impact that they're going to make, they're going to have a little more buy-in. Their attitudes are going to be a little more positive, and therefore it guides, you know, their day-to-day actions. Okay, so going through that workup, I know we kind of sidetracked for some leadership stuff, but that's all good with that. Well, where did you guys? So you're working with different countries. How long was that deployment? And then when the Benghazi attacks happened, where were you at? And what were you involved in? Were you involved in them like Cody was, or no?
No, so Benghazi was. I don't even remember what year that was.
2012.
2012,
I think. Correct. Yeah. Yep.
So I was still in California when that happened. I didn't make it out to Hawaii until February of 2013, and then ended up on that deployment by the end of 2013.
Okay.
When we went out to.
So Cody had already done the Benghazi stuff before you guys linked up in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
It was September of 2012.
Yeah.
Benghazi.
Okay.
September 11th, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, September 11th, 2012. Okay, cool. So that happened beforehand, so you weren't a part of that. Cody had already done that. Game day Gandhi, big shocker, right? All right, so you do your deployment. How long was that deployment of training different host nations?
That one was about 6 months.
Okay.
We got out there about December, came back around June.
Yeah, what was your favorite country to work with or just go visit? I guess that's two questions.
I honestly, I had a lot of fun in Korea. Because there was a lot of back and forth, right? The command out there did a really good job of, hey, we're not just going to push and push and push and not give you anything back. So they gave us opportunities to, like, hey, we're actually going to stop training. We're going to push back to this base over here. Because at one point we were staying at a base that's about 2 kilometers from the DMZ. So it was, tensions are kind of high up there in that area. I mean, when you start to cross bridges that are literally rigged to blow, there's fighting positions on the bridges out there still. It's, the tensions are kind of high. So, they did a really good job. They allowed us to come back, push us out to a base. We got to put on, people clothes and just go terrorize the South Koreans all throughout Seoul and different areas out there. So it was, just having that opportunity.
Yeah.
It's a different culture out there too. I mean, I loved it.
So for our listeners that don't speak Marine Corps, when you say go terrorize South Koreans, you're talking about going out into town and
Getting after it.
They introduced us to soju out there.
What is that?
It's their alcohol.
Oh,
that they drink.
okay. Yeah.
And it's delicious, by the way. But extremely dangerous because it's so delicious you don't realize the effect that it's having on you until it's typically too late. And
A few karaoke bars?
Couple.
Yeah. We'll leave it at that. Oh, man. Okay, so you come back from that deployment, and how old is your daughter while you're on this first deployment?
She just turned 1 when we had just got to Hawaii, so she actually turned 2 while I was on that deployment.
Okay.
And then this is kind of, what leads to everything, right, is when we first got there to Hawaii, they didn't have housing for us, so stayed in a hotel for 60 plus days. It was a hotel on base. My wife, daughter, myself, all of our clothes, whatever we had to live off of, that's what we took to Hawaii, and we're just strung out in this hotel. Plus all of my gear. Literally the week that I checked in, they said, hey, we're actually going to Bridgeport, California, where we do our cold weather training. We're going to Bridgeport in like 2 or 3 weeks, and you're going. So I got to leave my wife and 1-year-old daughter in the hotel while I went to go train in Bridgeport for like 30, 45 days. And then it was just constant, you leave for 2 weeks, come back for 2 weeks, leave for a month, come back for 2 weeks. And my wife just didn't have anybody out there. She didn't have the support system. We didn't have anybody, if my wife's got to go to school, but my daughter's sick, or my wife's got to go to work, and my daughter can't go to school because she's sick. We don't have a babysitter. We don't have family. We didn't have nothing. So my wife was kind of dealing with this all on her own. We're brand new to the island, and I'm on a deployment within the first year that we're out there.
That's a lot.
So then I do this deployment. I come home, and immediately jump straight back into another workup immediately. And I think even worse was, this is Cody and myself. We both picked up, I picked up sergeant on that deployment. Cody was a corporal, and all of our leadership left. We were left with nothing, and it was me and Cody were in charge of the platoon. So I was acting platoon commander, and Cody was the acting platoon sergeant as a sergeant and a corporal.
So E4 and E5, correct?
E4 and E5.
So you're in E5, Cody's in E4, and what rank typically holds those positions?
So the platoon commander is typically 01, 02, and then the platoon sergeant is typically about an E6. Now it's an E7.
So you guys are filling those roles.
Correct.
Okay. Which, shout out to the military for allowing you that opportunity and also being somewhat prepared for it.
There were a lot of teaching moments out there, a lot of learning curves that I had to pick up on quick, but tons of amazing individuals that kind of helped guide us through the way. I've never heard of a lot of the things that it gave me a lot of respect for like the platoon commanders, not understanding ever what goes into planning like a helo raid. Like what's an ASAT, what's an ASLAT, what's a bump plan, what's like all of these things that just I'm saying the words now, I still don't know what they mean, but I built them.
Yeah.
It's basically all of your planning and everything that goes into like who's on what helo. You have to know loadouts, you have to know weights, you have to know who's on what's on what. If a bump plan, if one of the helos goes down, what are we doing? Who's getting bumped off and who's going on this the only helo that we do have? What's our insertion plans? What's our extraction plans? What's all of these things that I had no idea about. I'm having to learn on the spot and then do it. And Cody, just being as smart as he is, Cody was the backbone. I would basically just try to bury myself in books, try to learn everything that I needed to learn, and Cody was just driving the chain out there with the guys, because we still have 30 plus junior Marines that are looking to us for like, hey, what's next?
Yeah.
And
so what was next for you guys? Were you guys doing another workup and then getting ready to deploy again?
We went straight back into another workup. We had maybe a good 30, 45 days of downtime to like, hey, get back, relax, enjoy your time off, and then we're getting right back into it.
Okay.
So this is kind of where my wife and I make the decision of, she's dealing with all this stuff on her own, and maybe it's just not best that she stays out there, because we're about to jump back into the same cycle. 45 days off island, come back for 2 weeks to a month, just to leave for another 45 days again, and it's just constant, only to deploy for another 6 months straight.
Yeah.
She's got nobody out there. She's got nothing, and it's just really unfair to her to continue to deal with that on her own. So we ultimately make the decision that it's just going to be best for her to go back to Texas. And with a lot of the mental health stuff that I was kind of dealing with, because I neglected to finish out what I wanted to, this was probably the most detrimental thing that I could have done. Was I got rid of my support system, and it was basically left out there in the wilderness to fend for myself.
So your wife and daughter head back to Texas. Yep. You just dive deep into your work.
Correct.
And which seems like a good thing, which can be a good thing, but if you don't have an outlet, if you don't have support, if you're not talking and working through things, it can actually turn it to a very dark time.
And that's ultimately what it, I was never a big drinker. I genuinely didn't really drink alcohol until after I got back from Afghanistan. When I was already 21, I was never one of those partiers beforehand, and then drank a little bit before, and then on that first deployment, that's when I kind of rediscovered alcohol again. And then, now my wife's gone, and I have nothing better to do. I'm getting yelled at 24/7 because of all these things that I'm doing wrong because I don't know. And, I'm working 12, 14, 16-hour days, just go home. And then, ended up, Cody and I actually went and got a house together. out in Hawaii, and just alcohol became my best friend, and it was, to my own detriment that it was causing me more problems than anything else. And we were kind of talking about this a little bit ago too. Cody talks a lot about being a victim and living with that victim mentality.
Yeah.
And that was me for the longest time. I was so good at doing all the wrong things and putting myself in trouble, finding trouble, and just getting into it. And it was everybody else's fault. It was never mine. It was always somebody else. I've always been really good at just deflecting and pushing the blame off on everybody else. And this is where it really started to affect my mental health, and it got pretty dark there for a while.
How long did you stay out in Hawaii? Did you deploy again?
Yep. So basically started getting into some trouble out in town, allowing my junior Marines to get in trouble, which ultimately reflected on me. And I'm being punished for these things, and then started getting in trouble myself. And this is where I first go back to advanced infantry course. This is part of my punishment was, well, you're going to go back to the school, and then even if you pass, you're not going back. You're getting kicked out of the company. We're going to send you to the headquarters element, and you're going to go work in the operations shop. So they sent me back to advanced infantry. I passed. Show up late for a deployment and go back out to work in the operation side of our headquarters element on deployment, and do another 6-month deployment. And this is where, I'm one of those, I'm an animal, and you put me in a cage, and it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what happened with me is, I continue to dig myself deeper and deeper into holes, and just continue to get myself into trouble. And it just, to the point where, I truly had to, actively ask for help. And
Okay. What was the point at which you recognized you needed help?
I think there was a time where I was, because I'm on a deployment now. I'm in a whole different company that I don't know anybody, and I'm trying to drink and socialize to make friends, and without that I have nothing. And it's just extremely dark times. I didn't want to be alive anymore. I didn't want to be there. It was just like, what am I even doing? And that's where, between dealing with that and then dealing with a lot of stuff going on at home, everything that I'm going through just really started to take a toll on my marriage. And I think we were to the point where my wife was just done with me. She was over it, and she was like, this ain't working.
Was there like a single thing that you did and or somebody said to you that you recognize, like, hey, I actually need some help? Or were you just like one day reflecting and going, man, how did I get from here to here? Like,
no, I was again just always playing the victim, and just doing something stupid that's getting me in trouble, and then me just like a battered puppy just sitting there in the corner, like, well, why did I get yelled at? And I've always been really good at, well, why me, poor me, and just really good at feeling sorry for myself. And to the point where I finally just I broke one day, and I talked to one of my buddies that was there on that deployment with me. He was the staff sergeant that was in charge of us, and I told him, I was like, hey man, I gotta go talk to somebody. I need help. And went and talked to psychologists, psychiatrists. I still never know the difference, but I went and talked to one of them that was there, and this is the first time that somebody has said the words that you have PTSD. And not only she say that, she said, I feel like you have a very severe case of PTSD. And she's like, the things that you're doing to cope with it, the things that she's like, you're bringing yourself down. You are drowning yourself.
What was it like hearing that? Did you accept it? Did you try to deny it?
No,
Was it hard to accept?
I always felt like it was there. I've hated the words PTSD. I've hated the stigma that comes with it, and
Yeah.
I've always felt like people use it as a crutch, and I never wanted to be those guys. It's like when you use PTSD to justify your crappy behavior, I hate it with a burning passion.
Yes.
And I think that's what I was always exposed to, is these people going out doing stupid stuff, and then everybody's like, oh, well, he's got PTSD. Like, no, he's an idiot. He might have PTSD, but he's also an idiot.
Yeah.
And, the PTSD is not what made him do these things. But I do see where it's a contributing factor, and, this is where I had to really kind of acknowledge it within myself. And like I said, it wasn't a surprise that hearing it was more so like it's the first time I'm actually hearing the words like, you have PTSD. So now it's, well, time to
fix it.
trying to figure out what to do about this.
Cool. So what was the Marine Corps' next steps for you? You ask for help, they get you help, and then how do they continue on with that help?
So I came back from that deployment. Still, again, I'm kind of actively in the middle of seeking treatment. So I initially sought treatment while I was on deployment. She attempted to put me in contact with some people on the base that I worked on, and it wasn't good. The way that the doctor that I was dealing with, the way that I kind of felt like he was attacking me, and just the way he addressed a lot of these stuff. So when things get awkward for me, I'll laugh, and he was asking me, "Do you drink?" I said, "Yeah." And he goes, when you do drink, how much are you drinking? And I kind of did the awkward laugh. It's like, oof. It's like probably like a whole bottle. Like I typically kill like an entire bottle of whiskey.
Like a fifth?
Like a fifth of whiskey.
That's a lot. Been there too. So
his response was, "Why is that funny?" It's like, it's not funny. He's like, "Well, why are you laughing?"
jeez.
And I got extremely defensive immediately, and it turned into an extremely hostile situation, to the point where I had to be removed. And then eventually they kind of discontinued my services there, and then pushed me out to Schofield, which was the Army barracks. They had actual civilian psychologists, psychiatrists that I was able to see.
Nice.
Went through a lot of like TBI clinics, things like that they had out there. A lot of brain scans, a lot of tests, studies, things like that. And this is initially where I'm starting going from that doctor to the next doctor at the Army barracks. It was a transition for me, but this is where my wife, our marriage really started to take a toll. And then my wife finally she made me an ultimatum, and she gave it to me. She wasn't playing around anymore. She said, either I'm going to move back out there, and we're going to work on this, and you were going to actively try to fix this marriage, or I'm going to make sure you never see your daughter again. She's like, you just got diagnosed with a severe case of PTSD. You're doing all of these things that are extremely harmful to you, let alone us. I'm not going to deal with it. So I'm going to move out there. If I see that you are actively trying to fix this and it doesn't work, then cool. At least I know you tried.
Yeah.
But you better put in effort, or I promise you this is the last time that you will not be a part of our lives. So, yeah, she laid it on thick. And
how did you receive that?
Honestly, I wasn't mad. It was, for everything that I was doing, it was. I don't know how I don't even know how I hadn't already been killed doing some of the stuff that I was doing. It was just such an idiot.
Yeah.
And, I knew that it can only be beneficial. And, my daughter was the only thing that I had left. I was living in a house with 2 other people that I met on Craigslist, like sharing a house with these people. I was drinking every day. I was drinking on weekdays. I would drink till 4:00 in the morning, and then get up and go to work at 5:30 and go PT with the guys, and just doing all the. I felt like I was on the path to my own death, and I can see it, and it was there.
Yeah.
And I
Did your leadership see this, or were you hiding it from them?
I hid everything.
Yeah. But not from your wife, though.
No, my wife's the only person that I've ever actively talked openly about a lot of this stuff. She's, even when she made the decision that she was going to come back out, I was like, hey, there's some things that you need to know before you come back out. If you can accept these things, then we can address it. But you need to know everything. So she knows everything, and
wow.
I put her in contact with the right people that I knew they were going to give her these information, because these are the people that I did wrong, and it was. I knew it was either I get to see my daughter one more time, or I end up dead before it happens. And between me like calling the suicide hotline multiple times, just trying to figure out like what am I even doing here, it was an extremely dark time in my life.
Do you think there was something different about hearing it from your wife than hearing it from all of the people that you were meeting with, like the psychologist, the psychiatrist? Because it's not like they didn't recognize the behavior, they didn't see what was going on, right? Or else you wouldn't have ended up in their offices. But what was it about hearing it from your wife that made it different?
I think it was the hope that it brought me. It's because even when things were bad in the past, it was like, well, at least I have her. At least I have my daughter. My wife, I've been best friends with my wife since I was a freshman in high school. She was, we never actively dated, but she was always the girl that, like, every time I had relationship problems, she's the person I went to. Every time she had relationship problems, I was the person she went to. So we've always confided in each other. So knowing that I had that support from her, it made, I didn't even push back. The minute she said it, my initial thought was, well, if you're going to come back, if you know all of this already and you're willing to take me back, well, you need to know the rest. And then if you're still willing to work on this, then, we'll work on it. I will actively put the effort, but...
What an amazing woman.
Yeah, no kidding. It's also one of those things, too, that, like, this moment is pretty pivotal in your... like, really not just, like, in your story, but in your life, right, as far as getting those things together. And it tends to be like, this is a crossroad that we see a lot of people come to, where, their spouse or a loved one or somebody gives them, that ultimatum, hey, we'll give it this one last shot. And there seems to be something about, like, it coming from a spouse or coming from somebody who knows them intimately, where there's almost kind of this clarity of, from them you understand what everybody else has been telling you, because maybe it's empathy, maybe it's the nature of the relationship where you're like, no, yeah, I can completely see why things have gotten to the way that they've gotten. You're right, this is me, I got to work on it. But when you feel like you're battling those things alone, it seems like maybe that just the doing it for you isn't enough. And I'm curious, as we've done a lot of work with people who have experienced PTSD. We've got some veterans groups that we work with. We've done work with people who are in recovery. What do you think made the difference at that crossroads for you? Because I do know a lot of men and women who have gotten to that same crossroads. They've had those same conversations of like, nope, yeah, you're right. And then, when push comes to shove, like they didn't make the choice to stop drinking or to get the help that they needed. That they had that one interaction, and that was the last interaction that they got to have with their their kid or their spouse because they held true to their end of the bargain and said, hey, listen, you decided not to get better. You know, what's that? So what kept you motivated to do it?
I think I was just ready. I was, you know, the treatment that I was receiving over at the Army barracks from the psychologist, psychiatrist, the TBI clinic, everything like that. It was, I'm not going to say it wasn't working, but it was like there was still a missing piece. And I couldn't figure out what it was. I didn't know because I was still, even though I was seeking treatment, I was still doing stupid stuff to, you know, be harmful to me and, you know, the people around me. And it was knowing that, okay, well, I'm getting treatment, but nothing's getting better. So there's something missing. And, you know, my wife just being as hard on me as she was, it was for my own good. And so I knew that I've always wanted to be a part of her life. I've always wanted her a part of my life. And, you know, my oldest daughter, she's my world. She's, I don't think I've ever talked to her about it. I've never been, I think, brave enough to have the conversation with her to let her know that she's probably the only reason that I'm still alive right now. But yeah, it's I was ready. I was ready for it for something to change.
Yeah.
So
I do think too, or I think I wonder how much, you know, you talk about your relationship with your wife, that you went to her whenever you were having relationship issues, and she was, you know, coming to you and she had relationship issues all the way through high school, and then you guys end up getting married. You know, how much do you think that part of your relationship that y'all have built together and that familiarity, that closeness, helped whenever the person you were having relationship issues with was yourself?
I mean, I've never really thought that deep into it. I just feel like if anybody truly knows me, because she knows me through all these different phases of my life.
Yeah.
So I feel like anything that she's ever actively told me to do or asked of me, she's doing it for my own benefit, because you can't know that I've done this with this person and this with this person and this with this person, and there's a pattern. But then, you know, when you're telling me that now I'm with you and that pattern is continuing, I can't sit back and try to pretend like she's wrong. She clearly knows me better than I know me. So,
and dude, that's just an incredible amount of trust to have there, you know, and that's something, you know, we've talked about in every relationship. That's like the foundation of it is trust, right? Trust, respect, listen, influence, care. Like those things are so important. But to be able to trust that somebody knows you well enough to honestly speak into your life in a way that like you can receive it, because there is that. There's a little bit of a chip on our shoulder sometimes that we carry with us of like, if you knew what I went through, if you knew what was going on, then you would understand why this and this and this happened. Mm-hmm. It sounds like she knew you well enough to be able to kind of cut through all of that and be like, no, Joe, you can trust me. I see what's going on. These are the things you need to fix, and go there, man.
Yeah,
that's
she
pretty incredible, man.
She wasn't trying to pamper me or tailor to my emotions the way everybody else was. Everybody is kind of like walking on eggshells around me, and you know, she's the one person that's like, oh no, we're talking about this. So,
yeah, dude. On the other side of it, right? Like if you were somebody, and I'm sure you've got some friends who've experienced this, or if you have a person in your life who's a veteran, or somebody who's got trauma from an experience that they've had, right? Do you feel like too many people are like they try to handle that situation with kid gloves? Like they're so worried about trying not to, like, you know, harm that person, or, you know, you got to be careful because they've got PTSD, maybe they've got some trauma, maybe they've got, you know, these stress things in their life, and so you don't want to add to it, that we then like actually remove ourselves from being a trustworthy person or being able to speak into that because we're trying so hard not to be something.
I think it can be a double-edged sword, right?
Yeah.
It's when you don't have somebody who's maybe as calloused as I am, where, you know, speaking bluntly to me maybe doesn't affect me as much. Maybe that's the way to get through to me. Somebody else, that could be the same exact thing that actually pushes them over the edge.
That's a good call.
So I think just understanding exactly who it is that you're dealing with, that can be all the difference.
Oh, man.
Yeah, we see. I mean, this is obviously a very emotional and extreme scenario, but the principles are universal. I mean, when you're in a leadership position, you need to know your people. You know, as a father, you talk to all three of your kids differently because they're different humans. I talk to my kids differently because they're different humans. I talk to my wife different than other people because she's different and she's my wife. I remember one time, her and I were just talking, and I was just kind of getting intense, and it wasn't towards her. It wasn't like it wasn't like an argument or anything else like that. And she just reminded me, she was like, "Hey, I'm not one of your team guy buddies." I was like, "Check, thank you. You're much better looking than them." You know, but you know, in my mind. And then another time we were actually in a fight, you know, as I call passionate discussion, and she was like, "Hey, I'm on your team." She's like, "Team Dinnell, like, I'm on your team. Like, we're gonna figure this out together." And man, I just love that you know what you shared about your wife, and it's just, for me, it's emotional hearing that, because I didn't know those things about you, and to just, one, you're one of my close friends, but two, just as a service member, just dealing with those things and getting to that point where you're calling a suicide hotline. Like, man, like, there's so many things along the way that we have failed if our service members are getting to that point.
100%.
I mean, that's just unreal. But the way your wife handled it was incredible. And one of the things I wrote down, you know, and you said trust, I wrote down trust plus humility. Like, the fact that you trusted your wife, and for you to have the humility to listen to your wife and accept what she said and receive it in the right way is incredible. Because there's other guys that I know that I've met or I've talked to that I currently know that if, like, one of the things that you said, you're like, yeah, you know, my wife was telling me to do these things or not do these things. There are some guys that would be like, well, my wife ain't going to tell me what to do. Mm-hmm. And you're like, dude, you're an idiot. You're an absolute idiot. And I'm calling myself an idiot because before in the past, I've actually had that attitude. Like, who's Amanda to tell me to do this, or I can't do this? Oh, actually, she's doing that because she loves me. She loves me. She cares about me. And, you know, you talked about the things that we talked about at Echelon Front that define a relationship. Well, the most important part of that is care. Like, if people know that you care about them, then they're going to receive those things. And you knew that your wife cared about you. She loved you. And she knew you well enough to say exactly what you needed to hear.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's incredible, man.
So she moves out there.
yeah.
And where were you stationed at the time?
Still in Hawaii.
Oh, so she goes back out to Hawaii.
Yep. She came back out to Hawaii.
Oh, God bless this
Yeah.
woman.
She's
Well, I mean, and what trust does it show that she's got in you, that she knew that, like, hey, we can make this work over distance? And then how well a job is she doing to listen to you and to read things that she's like, all right, it's time for us to go back. Like, if we're gonna make it through this as a family, I can hear it in his voice. I can, in the things that we're talking about, like, it's time to go back. Those are big moves all the way across the board, man. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was. I mean, thousands of dollars that we spent on, like, so many ridiculous things. Right, like we paid to ship her car home, like a couple $1,000s. The flights from Hawaii to Texas and then Texas back to Hawaii was like another like $1,000. I mean, just constantly pouring money into it. And then, you know, now I can't live with my Craigslist friends anymore, and you got to go get another house, which, you know, my rent out there is
Poor Craigslist friends.
yeah. My rent out there is close to $3,000. So, you know, I got to put
cheap, man.
first month's rent plus last month's rent, and, you know, it's.
I mean, yeah, but you're balling in the Marine Corps right now,
Yeah,
right?
true.
If anybody wants to know, are you still an E5 at this point?
Yep.
Just look up E5 pay.
And even at that, this is, I mean, we're talking 10 years ago.
Just look up current, and you're still going to be disappointed.
Current will make you depressed enough. You don't even have to look up how low it was 10 years ago. So yeah, she moved back out. I'm not going to say it was easy. We definitely had our struggles. It was extremely rough, but this is the start of trying to figure out what we want to do next and what
how old are you at this time?
This is like end of 2015, beginning of 2016.
Okay.
So, what am I? 25, 26.
And this is when Cody's getting out, right?
Yep. Cody had just got out. He actually didn't even make it on that second deployment or that third deployment with me out there. So.
All right. So wife and daughter moved to Hawaii.
Yep.
What are the next steps for you in the Marine Corps?
Basically just trying to figure out what I want to do. I initially was trying to go EOD. Got some endorsements. One of my buddies, Mark Zambone, I think I talked about him on the first podcast. He was the first Marine depot amputee to return to full duty.
Yeah, you did.
So he was our EOD tech in Afghanistan, lost both of his legs. He eventually went over to become like the chief instructor of EOD school out in Florida. He wrote me an amazing letter of recommendation. He was friends with the EOD monitor, who's essentially the handler for everybody who gets selected to become EOD.
Like, hey, you see that stack of names? I want you to randomly find Joe Reyna in there and pull it.
He wrote me just glowing letter of recommendation, and I went through the screener, passed, which wasn't easy either. Just the EOD screener alone.
That's a gut check.
It was, but it was what I wanted. And then this is where, again, just my life just comes to crumbles, and I come back to being the best victim you'll ever meet. February of 2016, there's what's called a HIS list, and the Marine Corps does a really good job of volunteering people to go do special duty assignments like recruiting duty, drill instructor, Marine security guard, and I get thrown on this list. Well, I've had these tattoos for quite some years.
They still look good, man.
Yeah, this is from even before they were legal. Because the Marine Corps just released the sleeve ban. Sleeve tattoos have been banned in the Marine Corps since the early 2000s, and
which is comical.
Yeah. So there was a transition point where they were like, "Hey, we're gonna go sleeves down year round, so no more rolling sleeves," and I was like, "This is my chance." I was like, "They're never gonna see my sleeve tattoos now because sleeves down year round, baby," and eventually we went sleeves up again, and they found all my tattoos.
You're like, oh, how'd that get there?
I was like, what?
Isn't it funny also in the Marine Corps, or I should say the military, I can't speak on behalf of the Marine Corps. I can speak on behalf of what I saw in the Navy, is they have these tattoo policies. And I remember they had this tattoo policy came out, and I was at TRADET, and everyone's like all stressed out about it. And I was like, dude, our command master chief has full sleeves, tops of his hands, and knuckles. I don't think it's going to be an issue for us. But then you'd have guys in units that had full sleeves for you guys, and then they're also trying to enforce not having it, but they're in a position of leadership, so it doesn't apply to them anymore. Did you see any of that?
Oh, yeah. Because there were some people that were grandfathered in because of it, so it was like, hey, well, your sleeve tattoos are okay because you got them this many years ago, but you just got yours, so yours are not okay.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, there was a whole lot of that we were dealing with, and then
and we definitely don't want the most elite fighting force that's the world's ever seen, aka the Marine Corps, having sleeves of tattoos, because that makes you less lethal at your job.
It's not good for the corporate Marine Corps that we work in.
Dude, it's so crazy. I don't get it.
Well,
Sorry.
They released it, so we're good now.
Yeah, so now we're good.
But when this is all going on in February, when I get thrown on this HIS list, I knew I was disqualified from any special duty assignment because you can't have sleeve tattoos on these assignments, or you couldn't back then. But it took them from February till about September of 2016 to deny my package. And in that time, I became ineligible for EOD because you were only allowed to be an E5 for up to 2 years before you became ineligible. So that pushed me over the threshold of, 2 years time and grade. So.
Okay, so I'm tracking this right. I know some of our listeners might be lost on this, like I think I am right now, but I'm rewinding it. So you do the screener, you're eligible to go to EOD.
Correct.
But the Marine Corps is like, nope, you're going to have to go do some of these other things instead.
While I was doing the screener is when I got selected to go, like, hey.
Voluntold?
Yep, voluntold to go, hey, you need to put in a package to do a special duty assignment.
So because the Marine Corps pulls you, voluntells you, literally voluntells you to say, hey, you need to put in this package for special duty, because it took the Marine Corps so long to deny you, you aged out.
Correct.
On being able to go through the EOD program.
Correct.
That's crazy.
So, again, my world is falling apart, and poor me.
Victim card coming out of the back pocket again?
Oh, yep. I have that one on standby.
It's laminated.
Yeah. So, immediately fall into, you know what, like, screw it, I'm done, I'm getting out. And the monitor, this is where I truly do give them credibility. The EOD monitor did a really good job of, when I finally got disqualified, they finally denied my package and said, hey, you're not going to go on an SDA because of your tattoos. It's like, cool. Called the EOD monitor. It's like, hey, I'm ready. Like, my package is done. He's like, brother. He's like, you're too senior now. He's like, I'm sorry. And he went and talked to my monitor for me, and my detailer who's in charge of giving me orders and stuff like that. And this guy did a really good job of talking me off the ledge. And he's like, you don't have to do, you don't have to throw everything away just because one thing didn't happen. Like, there's so many other cool things you can do. And then that's when he started pitching the idea of, he's like, have you ever thought about like designated marksman, long range precision shooting, CQB, becoming an instructor? I was like, that actually sounds pretty cool. And
what a good leader.
So he's like, brother, I can cut you orders, get you out to Virginia, and that can be your thing. So I decided to take him up on it, and went over to my next duty station, which was out in Virginia Beach, and this is where I became a designated marksman instructor.
Dude, that's rad. So, talk us through that schooling. Like, what type of schooling do you have to go to be a designated marksman instructor?
So we have, as far as...
Did you have to have that qual already yourself?
No. So because we own that school. So the way, I guess, my knowledge of it is the Marine Corps has the only established designated marksman program of instruction that exists in the military. There's there's obviously like snipers. There's different variations of it, but as far as like a true designated marksman, which the way we describe it is like they bridge the gap between the infantry community and the sniper community. So snipers are long range engagements. Those designated marksmen are your medium to long range engagements. We shoot the M110 SAS, effective out to 800 meters, 875 yards. So it's not extremely long range, but still.
Yeah, especially if you're in an urban environment. Because I know I believe we worked with some designated marksmen in Ramadi. And I know the Army has something similar. I think, so do they call it the same thing?
They have a marksmanship unit, because Troy Basham, who we interviewed, he was part of the Army marksmanship unit, and his dad ran the long-range shooting school for the Army, but they didn't have a marksmanship school, I don't think.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank. Our listeners, please comment on this if you know in the Army or if you're in the Army, because we had soldiers that we were working with that were doing the same thing in Ramadi, but they weren't snipers, but they had the capabilities.
Correct. And that's where that's the biggest things that we try to make everybody understand. Is
it's freaking awesome.
We tell these kids all the time too. All the students that would come through is like, listen, you're not a freaking sniper. Like, this isn't a thing. You're a designated marksman,
which is just as awesome.
It's still like you have all the tools, the techniques, everything still applies.
The most important technique, being able to take that long shot.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. because guys drop out of our course all the time, and this is where the difference between, like, when we talk about, listen, we're shooting a one MOA weapon system, but you're a 3 MOA shooter, so you got to go.
So for our listeners and Lucas, I think you actually know this.
For the NCCs.
I knew it was coming.
Do not encourage it, Joe. Do not encourage it. We're going to get Lucas actually, I don't know if I want to say this or not.
Okay.
Josh and I are working on a shirt.
That's what I'm talking
It says
about.
almost joined veteran.
I approve.
And, yeah, I figured.
100%. Yeah.
Oh, man, how many of those have we met over the years? I don't even want to open that door.
You sit next to one every week.
No. You know what? I forgot what I was going to say. It doesn't matter.
We
minute
were
of
talking
angle.
one
It's a
MOA.
measurement.
Yeah.
You know, a minute of angle is a measurement used for long range shooting. So 1 MOA at 100 yards is 1 inch. 1 MOA at 500 yards is 5 inches. So if you need to be within 1 minute of angle of your ability to shoot, meaning, hey, at 1,000 yards, your shot needs to be within a 10-inch circle. And so at 500 within 5 inches, which is, okay, that's still a good amount, but that's effective. If you're 3 MOA, that's a 15-inch circle at 500 yards. That's unacceptable. So do you know the basic attrition rate numbers on that?
No, we did a really good job of, when I got there, this was one of those courses that, you know, it seemed to be attrition as the mission. They really pride themselves on being able to, like, oh, we're not going to make it through. As I made it through the course, so this is part of the requirements. Like, when I got there, was you have to go through the course. You have to go through designated marksman. You have to go through combat marksmanship coach, and you got to go through combat marksmanship trainer, because those are the 3 courses that we teach out at that that unit. And so you have to go through all 3 of these, and then that's where you earn your black shirt. You become an instructor, and you get to start teaching them now.
Nice.
A lot of platform instruction type stuff. And, you know, it was, at first, it was all about just trying to, like, oh, you suck, you're not going to make it through. And then we really started to focus on, like, all right, what's the deficiency? Like, what are you not grasping here? Because at the end of the day, these units are sending these Marines to our schoolhouse to learn this skill set, so that, because they have a requirement when they go do a deployment, they have to have so many designated marksmen in each platoon in order to be considered combat effective to be able to go do that deployment.
So you're hindering the rest of the Marine Corps by just dropping guys.
Yeah. When you,
Instead
you
of
just,
getting them up to speed.
When you refuse to care, and when you refuse to actually spend the time and do the one thing that you're there to do, which is teach and instruct, it really put a hindrance on the units. And so as I transitioned into this role, between myself and one of my good buddies, Kyle Brodsky, we really started to focus on the leadership aspect of that and actually teaching. And, you know, it really got to the point where it was like, all right, hey, you failed this course of fire. You know, what are we going to do next? How are we going to fix this? And we really started deep diving. Sometimes you find a guy that, like, okay, well, you're not shooting, or you're not shooting good, but maybe it's your spotter. So then we get an instructor to get down there and spot for you. Now I'm going to call corrections. All you got to do is input the data that I'm telling you and hold where I'm telling you to hold. Theoretically, should be able to hit. Like, this weapon, I promise you, this weapon system is designed to do it.
It's not the gun, it's the shooter.
Yeah. So once we identify that it's a shooter, now it's, okay, well, what is the actual deficiency within the shooter? Are you nervous? Do you have too much caffeine? Do you, what is it?
Yeah.
So we really started to deep dive into that, and, you know, we got more to the point of trying to get these guys qualified. And it wasn't, there were still guys that failed out of the course, but it definitely wasn't for a lack of effort at that point anymore.
Okay. Nice. I love that shift of mindset of, like, no, let's make these guys capable. Like, we need to do that for the Marine Corps.
And that was, I think, for us, just gaining a better understanding of, you know, why are we doing this in the first place?
It's so important to understand that. What was your favorite part of being in that position?
I love being an instructor. For one, I love shooting long guns. This I think really just pushed me over the edge. I love guns and I love shooting. So this just kind of really, like, cemented that for me. But then even just being able to have that influence. I still have guys to this day that I mean, they hit me up on Facebook or they hit me up on Instagram and like, hey, Gunny, remember you were my instructor for Designated Marksman? I'm like, yeah, bro, let's not talk about that.
That's awesome.
But so yeah, I mean, I love being able to know that I had a positive impact on somebody, and
Yeah, that's cool. How long were you at that command?
so I was there from 2017 to 2020,
Yeah.
right after COVID.
Yeah, that's when we met. Was in 2019.
2019.
When you were out there. Yeah.
So that's where I was.
Came out to the Groundworks FTX.
Yeah, I was originally actually right down there in Virginia Beach.
Mm-hmm.
We used to work on the over in Dam Neck.
Yep.
And then Dev Group ended up building us a full shooting range up in Yorktown. State of the art facilities, 610-yard shooting platform with a 9-story shooting tower. Yeah. Amazing budget.
Yeah, that yeah, incredible budget. Yeah, that training facility in Yorktown is awesome.
It's super nice, and
It's
then
unreal.
I think one of the best things for us too is it's a naval weapons station, and so ultimately it's a Navy captain that is in charge of the base.
Yep.
We had thrown out the idea multiple times, but then between talking with our command and just kind of floating the idea, it was like ultimately this is going to come down to the base commander, which was like our idea was, can we bring personal weapons out here? There was a meeting where our gunner, he's a chief warrant officer that specializes within the infantry.
Mm-hmm.
He was at one of the meetings, and the base commander pulled him aside, and he's like, hey, Bubba, you think we can shoot personals out there? He's like, I'm glad you asked, sir.
Oh my God.
So he made that a thing, and then we actually turned it into like a quarterly thing where we would actually push it out base wide for anybody that was out there. It's like, hey, if you follow this protocol and you reach out to us, give us the serial numbers, the make, model, all this information, we would actually bus people out to our range with their personal weapons. And as long as you were shooting within a certain caliber, you got to basically bring your own ammunition out to the range. And I mean, we set up steel targets out there. We set up different types of barriers, paper targets, and then we would actually bring out like Marine Corps issued stuff with Marine Corps ammo. So Marine Corps ammo can only shoot through Marine Corps rifles and pistols and stuff like that. But then, so even if you didn't have personal weapons, because some of the Marines lived in barracks and they weren't allowed to have personal weapons, they got to come out and shoot some of the other weapons that we had out there that didn't typically get busted out on a regular basis. We had different types of like Colt 45s, actual match style M16s that are like lead weighted and stuff like that, with match grade ammunition. We would bring out the M110s.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was so like the funnest command I've ever been a part of. It was amazing.
Yeah, that seems like just a lot of fun. When I had the opportunity to help build up the marksmanship cell for the SEAL teams, it was like a dream. Like I get to go to shooting schools and create our own curriculum to help develop instructors within the SEAL teams. Dude, it was awesome. Okay, so you're there until 2020, and then where do you shift? And so how are things with you and your wife? So you go from Hawaii to Virginia. Mm-hmm. That's a big move, big culture shift. How are things with you and your wife and your daughter at this time?
They're good. They're
still working through stuff?
Obviously still working on it. This was stuff that, it wasn't going to go away. And especially being in Hawaii, there was a lot of, reminders of the trauma and stuff like that. So, there were things that like we had to remove ourselves from there to
very smart,
just to even start to heal.
Wow.
And that's where getting out to Virginia, it really allowed us to really start working on our relationship. And then
good.
This is where my son, we ended up having my son while we were out there. Oh goodness, he was born in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And then my daughter was born in 2019.
Okay.
No, 2019 and 2020.
Okay.
Because actually my daughter was born right after COVID. She was in June of 2020. So
Are you still in Virginia when she was born?
Yep.
Okay.
So we kind of, when my son, it was everything smooth for him, no issues, and then COVID while my wife was pregnant and with my daughter, and dealing with, I wasn't even allowed to stay over at the hospital with her. Couldn't take my other kids with us, no other visitors, and my wife, her mom was originally supposed to come out. She's always been a person that we've relied on pretty heavily. She's always been like a really good support system for us.
Yeah.
So she came out even when my oldest daughter was born. She came out when my son was born, and now my youngest daughter, and where we need her the most because I can't take my kids to the hospital. She couldn't fly because they stopped all the flights and everything. So
jeez.
I was like asking neighbors and stuff that.
Dang, that's hard.
Yeah, so kind of dealing with that, but my daughter was born, and then 4 weeks later, had to move. PCS,
bro.
So,
okay, where do you head to next?
So I guess in the midst of all this, I went through what we call our infantry unit leaders course. It's a 3-month long school of the most physically and demanding thing I've ever done in my life. So in the infantry, we have different aspects of the infantry, right? Like everybody thinks like infantry is infantry. You have 0311s, which are your infantry riflemen. Those are your basic door kickers. You have 0331s, which are your machine gunners. You have 0341s, which are mortarmen. 0352s, which are your anti-tank missile men. We used to have 0351s, which were assaultmen, do rockets, demolition, things like that. So there's all these different facets of the infantry. Well, eventually, when you become a staff sergeant, you have to go through infantry unit leaders because the idea that you're only going to stay within your specific MOS, it's just not feasible anymore. We got to plug and play where we can. So you got to go through infantry unit leaders where you have to master every aspect of the infantry. So even for somebody like myself as an infantry rifleman, I had to master machine guns. We disassemble, reassemble 50 cals, Mark 19s. We go through the demolition package, learning det cord, how to read nets and news, and set up different types of charges, shape charges, door charges, just different things like that. We go through the mortars package. I mean, everything. And it's not just like, oh, hey, like, go do all this cool stuff. It's all the physical labor that comes with it, too. So, like, during Machine Gun Week, you're hiking from range to range with all the machine guns, Mark 19s, 50 cals, just heavy stuff. Jeez. And just constant on your feet, pushing out patrols, just doing fun stuff.
Yeah,
and,
legitimate gut check.
Yeah. And, this was something that I thought, all right, well, this is going to be really good for me because, I got my time off. I did my couple years here at Designated Marksman, and now it's time for me to go back to the infantry and go reapply myself. Well, while I was at infantry unit leaders, I got orders. So I had talked to my monitors, like, hey, all I want to do is go on a special purpose BACTAF deployment. Those are the guys that, so the unit that was in Afghanistan for the withdrawal, they were on a special purpose BACTAF. My only request for him was special purpose BACTAF. I was like, no more MUs, no more UDPs. Like, I don't want to do anything like that anymore. I want to do a special purpose BACTAF. You can stick me on the East Coast, you can stick me on the West Coast. I don't care. Just whatever unit's on the next SP BACTAF, stick me on it. He's like, cool. So I'm at school, infantry unit leaders, and I get orders to 4th Marine Logistics Group in New Orleans, Louisiana, which is not a special purpose MACTAF deployment. It's not even a deployable unit. And it's not even an infantry unit either. It's a logistics group. And, I get back, I call him, it's like, hey, this isn't what we talked about. And, it just ends up turning into a heated conversation where basically I get the ultimatum of, these are your options. Either take these orders and call me in 3 years, or go tell your monitor that you need to sign an RE3 Oscar, which basically means you're refusing to take orders and you're getting out of the Marine Corps. So kind of get forced onto this. And
I believe you reached out to Cody during this time, right? For some advice, and myself?
probably
We
multiple
talked?
times. I think there was during this time, and then this was there was another time actually too where I had to reach out to you guys again because, leaving that unit, I kind of was in a similar situation
Yeah.
again. But for what it's worth, this probably ended up being one of the most beneficial things for me, for my growth
Okay.
as a person. When I got out there, I was dealing with a logistics officer who was a major. He was my first person in my chain of command, and going from all of these like enlisted being in between myself and the next officer, or even it just being like a typical infantry officer being an O1 or O2, I'm reporting directly to an O4.
It's a big difference. And you're an E6 at the time?
And I picked up E6 while I was a designated marksman instructor.
Right.
So while I'm out there, he's to make things even better, he's a prior enlisted guy. Old Rob Harrison, Farmer Rob now. He runs his own farm out in Mississippi now. He's an amazing human being. He's love that guy.
Okay.
Extremely hard on me as soon as I get out there. You're a staff sergeant. This is what I expect of you. Do it. And I didn't get to ask questions. Hey sir, what is I don't know what this means. Did you read the order? No sir. He's like, go read the order. So he really forced me to be independent. He forced me to seek the answer before just pushing the easy button and coming and asking for the answer. So he really forced me to just grow as a person and not take shortcuts. And especially at a command where I had no idea what I was doing. Like no clue whatsoever. And I ended up working on 90% of my job was on a classified computer. I worked in a skiff. Everything that I did was a lot of it was all classified stuff. But not only that, I'm writing reports on behalf of a 2-star general, and the general didn't read half of my reports. And it was, I thought it was really funny. One time there was a master sergeant who's an E8. He was asking me, he's like, where does all this information come from? He's like, explain this to me. Like, what? All of this stuff you're doing, where does this information come from? So I'm explaining it to him. It's like, hey, I'm pulling these reports, I'm reading all this, and then I kind of have to combine it, and then I take this information from this unit and this unit, and then I basically, this is what's derived from this, and then so I, based on this information, this is what we can feasibly support. He's like, so where did that information come from? I was like, I just told you. It's like, so he's like, did the general see this? I was like, no. It's like, how often does the general see his report? I was like, rarely. It's like he's doing something else. Like he doesn't. It's like, so you're just writing reports on behalf of the general? It's like, yeah. And he was laughing so hard. He's like, dude, that's freaking epic.
Dude,
So it was
amazing.
Definitely not what I signed up to do, right? But again, the growth that I got from it. When that major left, I got another major that came in who was a complete like polar opposite of this guy. This guy was probably 6'4", 6'5", just farmer, just super thick accent. Went to Ole Miss type guy. And then the next officer that came in, the next major, it was Major Castile. She was about 4'11", all of 100 pounds maybe, and just a little firecracker. She wasn't afraid to crack the whip, but I always knew she had my back.
That's cool.
And we worked directly for 2 full-bird colonels, 2 O6s that were in there, and these guys were really, just some of the smartest individuals that I've ever met. The general that I worked for, he probably the most caring person, the most caring Marine. He took so much time for my personal career to write reports on me that nobody else has ever done. He made it a personal thing for himself.
Wow, that's cool.
So,
What was kind of your path for, okay, you're here, your time's coming up. What did you want to do next? What was your next duty station?
So I was more just trying to figure out what exactly was going to happen with me at that point. I was I thought that, okay, I just did this time at the MLG where I didn't want to be in the first place. And okay, so I'm going back to the infantry.
Okay.
Tattoo ban just got released, and guess who ended up on the next hit list again for a special duty assignment?
Joe Reyna?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
So I get histed again, and I have all of these people vouching for me. I have Sergeant Major, I have Fullbird Colonel, I have the General write a letter saying, I think this is going to be absolutely detrimental to his career, like just at the juncture he's at. Like I do not think it's a good idea. He needs to get back to the infantry, and he needs to go do time, out there. And somebody at headquarters Marine Corps said that they had a better plan for me, and I wasn't getting off these orders. So I got selected to go on recruiting duty and went to school in 2023.
Wow.
So end of 2023, went to school to learn how to be a recruiter. And
what was that schooling like?
A lot of it was just getting comfortable with platform instruction, which I've done a lot of. So I was already, I've never really had an issue getting up in front of people and talking. It was more so not learning, but being able to regurgitate the information that we're trying to push out to our now target audience, being high school students.
Nice.
And that's where I feel like a lot of my success comes from is I love what I do, right? Through all the ups and downs, the good, the bad, the ugly. There's one thing that I will never be ashamed of, and that's being able to tell people that I'm a United States Marine. So
can't argue with that.
To me, we tell people all the time, right? Because recruiting duty is hard. Recruiting is probably one of the hardest jobs in the Marine Corps right now.
Interesting.
It seems like it is kind of across the military. I mean, the Marine Corps, if I'm not mistaken, the last couple of years are the only branch of the military that's met their quota.
Correct.
Yeah.
I believe this last year was the first year that all branches actually met it. But as far as what you're talking about, just consistently
over the last
quota
5
every
years,
year, the Marine Corps is the only one that consistently does it every single year.
With by far the lowest recruiting budget, correct?
Correct.
By far.
100%.
Okay.
Lowest budget as a whole. Like
ever.
Yeah.
For everything.
Yeah. We Marine Corps, and that's kind of something that I think somebody just got extremely proud of one time, and it's like now they just continue to inflict more and more. It's like, we do more with less. And like, hey man, we'll make your budget bigger, and like, no, we don't need it. What?
But imagine what we could do.
Yeah.
All right, so you go through that schooling, prepares you to be a recruiter. I remember when I found out you're going to be a recruiter in the Fort Worth area, I was super excited. I was like, sweet, it's going to be close, and it's going to be awesome. And at what point do you find out that you're going to Fort Worth? Did you get to pick those?
I wasn't supposed to, but again, just being surrounded by the amazing human beings that I was. So when I was at security forces and as a designated marksman instructor, the sergeant major that was out there, I had a really good relationship with him just because of the interactions we had. He ended up moving out to New Orleans, and he became the 4th Marine Division sergeant major while we were out there. And so when I got selected to go on recruiting duty, if you volunteer to go recruiting, you don't get a say-so in where you go. Or if you volunteer, you do get to choose.
Okay.
If you volunteer, you get duty station preference. If you get voluntold,
it's where needs of the military, right?
Needs of the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
So I technically did not have a duty station preference. I did not rate one. But, Sergeant Major Adams being out with 4th Marine Division, he immediately picked up the phone. He's like, where are you trying to go? And I told him. He made the phone call, called my current Sergeant Major right now. And, my Sergeant Major right now, they just did everything to bend over backwards to help me out. And this is a guy, he's been in the Marine Corps, I want like 27 years at this point. he doesn't owe me anything.
Nothing.
He's genuinely could have been like, yeah, cool, we'll take care of him, and then just blown me off like what felt like everybody else has in my career, and he hasn't. And I told him my story. Told him, my son is. My son is autistic. We're EFMP. We have these accommodations that we need because of my son. And again, he doesn't owe me anything, but he asked me at every point, "What do you want? Where do you want to be? What do you need? What can we do?" And he's giving me 100% of what I'm asking for, without
amazing.
question.
That's what good leadership looks like. Because as you said, he doesn't owe you anything, and I agree. But he also owes you everything. Like senior leaders owe their people everything, especially when you have a good Marine like yourself who's been putting in the work, who's been faithful to your job, your commands, your country. He actually does owe you everything. And that's what good leaders need to understand. And I'm glad that he sees that and that he did that. That's awesome. So what's been, so moved to Fort Worth, you and your wife picked that. Was that because of family or just because Fort Worth is awesome? You're from Texas.
I'm from Texas, from San Antonio, but I feel like we've outgrown San Antonio. That's not where we see ourselves, even after we retire.
Yeah.
My in-laws, surprisingly enough, my father-in-law got a job up here. I believe he works in Justin right now, but he lives right there. We're in a weird spot where it's like Hazlitt, Fort Worth, Saginaw.
Yeah.
And we're in that weird little finger that's still considered Fort Worth, but really close to Saginaw. And they brand new house, brand new subdivision. They bought their house, and then a couple months later, more stuff was being built, and all of these amazing things just started to set in place for me as far as buying my house. And it just so happened that the house that we bought is 8 houses down from my in-laws.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, and most people are like, "Oh, gross." I love my in-laws.
Same.
They're amazing human beings. They love my kids, and it's my wife. My wife kind of hates it because she's temperamental. She can stand to be around her family for like a certain period of time, and then it's like, okay, I need my space again. I can be around them all the time. Like I don't get tired. I didn't grow up with it, so I can be around them 24/7. It doesn't bother me, and
that's definitely a blessing. I've always been like that with my parents, and then I hit the lottery with my in-laws as well, because it's like I can be around my parents, I can be around my in-laws as much or as little, and I love it. And my in-laws moved out here. February was a year from when they moved out here, and it was awesome. And it's been awesome. And my parents live up in Denton, so they're like, we're in between both of our parents. It's a cool thing to have. So what's been your biggest challenge with the recruiting duty?
Trying to learn all this hipster lingo.
No cap.
Yeah.
Oh, Skippity, Ohio.
Yep.
Is that one?
100% busting.
Bus.
Aiden the other day was headed to his buddies were playing pickleball, and he's he hurt his foot in Jiu-Jitsu, and so he's able to train, but he can't roll. And I'm like, hey, why you can't play pickleball? Like, you're not healed yet. And he goes, I'm going to watch my friends, and I'm going to be running Ox. I'm like, what? He's like, Ox. I'm like, what does that mean? He's like, music. Like, I'm going to bring the speaker and play the music. And I'm like, why would you not just say that? Why would you not just
He's running the auxiliary cable, bruv.
Yeah. So learning the hipster lingo with kids. Okay. What's your quotas like as a recruiter? Are they reasonable?
It's definitely reasonable. It's we have to have a 1.33% APR for 90 days worth of data. So basically means within 90 days we got to recruit 4 people. So that's the 1.33 is 4 people within a 3-month span. However that plays out in your favor, it is what it is. If you do a 0 and a 2 and a 2, well, you're solid. If you go 2-0-2, you're solid. If it's just 1-2-1, good. But yeah, it's definitely reasonable. It's especially now, I think getting started is probably the hardest part, is because you don't know anybody, you don't know anything, you haven't built those relationships in the community, you don't have people that, a lot of it is establishing your baseline when you first get there. And now I'm to the point where a lot of my business now is, those relationships that I've built in the past. And, hey, there's this kid that I put in the Marine Corps a year ago, and he's like, hey, he's calling me up. He's like, hey, I got a buddy that, he keeps seeing all my posts on Instagram, and now he wants to join. And so it's really starting to pay off. And it's all the work that I put in before is really, now it's to the point where I can finally, I'm not working till 10, 11 o'clock at night anymore. I'm not having to put in these egregious hours. And
yeah. That's great. So to me, I look at it like when I was doing sales, I had to build my book of business. I'm just out there doing everything I can, and then you get your rhythm, and then you start getting referrals, and you're like, oh, these referrals are really nice, because it makes it work. It doesn't make it easy, but it makes it easier. So that's what you're doing right now. How many years are you currently at right now?
So this month is 16 and a half.
Dude, that's awesome. And then along the way, you make E7. When did you make E7 before you came here?
Pretty much as soon as I got here. I got here, I moved here in January, actually went to like a proficiency and review course in February, and then became officially on the streets as a recruiter in March. And then April 1st, I pinned on Gunnery Sergeant.
Dude, let's go. Was that how does the Marine Corps do that? Is that like a pretty big ceremony, or is it just kind of a smaller one for your family?
Whatever you want to do. If we were at a larger unit, it would have been a lot more of a publicized thing. I'm sure you would have had the whole command out there or stuff like that. But for us, I think there was all of maybe 4 or 5 of us out there. And even though it was the smallest promotion ceremony that I've had in my entire career, it was probably the best one, because my dad and my grandfather were actually able to drive up, and they both pinned me when I got promoted. Cool. So, and Joe Reyna III, having Joe Reyna Sr. and Joe Reyna Jr. pin me, I think was probably, my dad being the reason that I joined the Marine Corps. He was my inspiration. He was always my person that I looked up to. And, my grandfather just being everything that he has always been to me. So he actually just passed away.
Oh, I'm sorry.
A couple weeks ago, or a couple months ago now. But yeah, that's been.
It's gonna be a hard one to top.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, that's.
Hopefully no more. I think this is it for me.
Yeah.
Really?
I think so.
Not gonna make 8? You don't want to make 8?
I think with the way the timing's gonna play out, if I get selected, so you have obligated service that you have to do to accept that promotion.
Yeah.
For me personally, I have no desire to go beyond 20 years. I love what the Marine Corps has given me, but 20 years is it for me.
Got it.
And I think just the way it's playing out is, if I do get selected for E8, with the amount of time, it's going to push me beyond that 20 years. And 20 years in one day is too much. That's
okay.
20 years.
I respect that.
On the dot. 3. Yep. We're good.
Even with the increase to your retirement, retiring as an E8 versus E7, an extra year wouldn't be worth it?
I would have to do the 3 years as an E8 to rate that E8 pay.
Oh. So that could put you to,
like 21, possibly 22 years.
A lot can change between now and then.
I've also told myself, probably after every enlistment, that I'm getting out.
I know, so that's why I'm saying a lot can change.
And that's kind of what you were hinting at, was that, I called you and Cody, and then there was even a point where, jumped on the phone with Leif Babin.
Yeah.
Just trying to figure out, because I thought recruiting, I was like, listen, I keep doing what the Marine Corps wants. It's always what the Marine Corps wants. The Marine Corps keeps saying do this, and I'm doing it. So when do I get a say so? So I felt extremely jaded about coming on recruiting duty, but I talked to Leif. And
what was that conversation like?
I mean, just more so. There was a point where we talked about, I'm a big runner, and it's like, you're running a marathon, and you planned on running an 8-minute mile for an entire marathon, and now you're 3/4 of the way through this marathon, but you're starting to slip to about an 8:30 9-minute mile. You're just gonna quit running that marathon? It's like, no, probably not. He's like, brother, you didn't get what you want. You didn't get promoted to E7 like you wanted. You didn't get the orders you wanted. He's like, so what? Who cares? Finish what you started.
That's awesome.
And between talking with him and there was one of the colonels that I worked for. His name was Colonel Noblet. He's still out there in New Orleans. Just such a smart human being. Like, truly cared about the people and about the Marines. And he pulled me into his office multiple times. Like, this guy's got colonel things to be doing.
Yeah.
And took the time multiple times to pull me into his office and just talk to me. And it's like, hey, what's going on, brother? What's going on in your head? Why do you feel jaded? Why do you have these feelings? And he even talked to me about the possibility of, he's like, you're looking at this as a bad thing. What about all the positive that's coming from it? You're gonna get to go to Texas. You're gonna go to Fort Worth. This is the first time you're gonna be surrounded by family. This is the first time you're ever gonna have a support system outside of your military family. Mm-hmm. Your in-laws are gonna be right down the street from you. What if you do get selected for E7 while you're out there? Because I had already been passed over twice for E7. What happens when you get out there and you do get selected? What happens if you decide to become a career recruiter and now you stay in the Marine Corps? Now you become an E8, and it's all of these like what ifs. Like, you don't know. And I mean, so much of what he was saying is literally already happened, right? Like,
yeah.
I reaped so many benefits from being down the street from my in-laws. I literally got promoted as soon as I got here. I mean, it's for me. This is, while being one of the most stressful jobs that I've been at on recruiting, it's probably been one of the most beneficial and one of the most rewarding. And
that's awesome.
Hopefully, even today,
yeah,
we'll see an Instagram post later on today.
Yes,
as far as why it's so rewarding.
Yeah.
I have 2 applicants that are actually at MEPS right now. Mm-hmm. One of them, I don't want to push her like too much of her personal information, but
yeah,
she was struggling with the ASVAB for a while. I've seen her scores; they were egregious.
Yeah,
she studied so hard, like put in all the effort. She's tall too. She's 5'10", so
yeah,
she's lost 30 pounds.
Wow.
She scored high enough on the ASVAB yesterday and confirmed her score. She's going to be considered what we call an alpha, which means she scored a 50 or higher on the ASVAB, coming from like single-digit numbers.
Jeez.
Did it all on her own. Did the weight. Her brother is a Marine. Her dad was a Marine, and she is worked so hard.
That's awesome.
She's at MEPS right now.
Dude, let's
just
go.
waiting to get physically qualified. Another gentleman, his stepdad was a Marine. He's never even thought about the Marines. His brother's actually a corpsman. Didn't think he was even going to go into the military. Brought him in. He's polar opposite of her. He's about 5'3" and about 90 pounds. And so his whole thing was, the Marine Corps being the toughest, the hardest branch, the physical requirements. I don't know if I can live up to it. We do workouts twice a week, and we brought him out to some of our workouts. This guy crushes it. Yeah. 90 pounds, 5'3", 90 pounds. He carries all of that weight.
Dude, that's awesome.
Plus other people's. And he's at MEPS right now, too. Dude. So it's things like that. Like, when I see the people who truly have a passion for this and then put the effort in to make it happen, it makes it so worthwhile.
Dude, I love it. That's awesome, man. Well, and so during this process, you've continued to work on your marriage and your family. Yeah. I think that's something that we all will continue to continuously work on. But, you and your marriage and your family is in a much different place now. stronger, healthier.
Oh, absolutely.
That's awesome. What a blessing. Well, I think it's just such a good testament to your determination and work ethic, and your wife's determination and work ethic, your guys' commitment to each other, the love that you guys have for each other, and also, man, God's grace. God's grace has been heavy in your life, heavy in your marriage and your family, and I appreciate you sharing all that with us. Lucas, what do you got, man, before we wrap it up?
Man, so many of my questions got answered early on. There is one thing, that I am curious about, and that is you were kind of talking a little bit about the people who were stationed in Hawaii and kind of the bitterness and stuff that they have. And it sounds like there's a lot of these duty stations that are paradise in one way or another, and yet those seem to be some of the places where people have the biggest struggles. And some of the folks that I've talked to, do you think that that has something to do with the dichotomy of the laid back nature of like the island, and then the intense nature of what it means to live as a Marine on base, knowing that, you guys at any point in time could be called to go into an incredibly dangerous area. And yet, when you walk down the road, or you're going back to your place. We lived in Honolulu for a while, and we had some friends who were on the naval bases there, and they're always on high alert. And as soon as they leave base and we're coming back to hang out with us, we're like, what's your problem? Why are you so high strung? Everything's great here, man. Like hang out. Do you think that there's a little bit of like the dichotomy between those things that kind of causes that?
100%. And I think just directly related to what you're talking about, right? So in Hawaii, the units out there, we have this thing, we called it Aloha Friday. Mm-hmm. So 1100, 1200 on a Friday, you ain't got nothing going on, let the boys go.
Yeah.
But God forbid it's 1300 and they're still there on a Friday. If we actually have something to do, and it's 1 o'clock on a Friday, and you're just like, hey man, before the guys leave today, we got to go to the armory and draw weapons. And what? It's Friday, man. Like, and yeah, some of these guys get so pampered and they get so accustomed to the luxuries that, like, all right, well, now when it's time to lock in and it's actually like time to pay, it's nobody wants to pay.
Yeah.
And so I think there was definitely a lot of that. Some of these guys get just so pampered, and yeah,
it causes a struggle. The reason I want to highlight this is because most citizens, we will stay in one or two areas, maybe we've got up to 5 different places where we work throughout the course of our life. Somebody who's in military duty, not only do they have many different duty stations that they're going to go to, different bases they're going to be on, but each one of those bases in each one of those areas can have a vastly different culture dynamic, even within the United States, than the last one that they went to. And then, when you've got guys, I got to do a funeral this past week for the guy who was the second to last guy drafted for Vietnam. So second to last guy, or in the state of Texas, drafted for Vietnam. And they told him that. They're like, hey, you're the second to last guy that's going to get drafted. And his mom was like, send him home then. Like, he's not going to go anywhere. So they send him to Germany. And then, the difference in culture for that, 18 months that he was there was something that he carried with him the rest of his life because of what a tremendous impact that had on him. And expecting, we've talked about some of the mental, emotional hurdles and things like that our service members go through. Like, imagine shifting culture every 4 years to where, like, now you're having to relearn not just roadmaps and things like that, but you're having to learn the culture of a new area, a new region of the United States. And, not to mention our folks that have to go, hey, you're going to be in Germany for the next 3 years. Okay, now you got to come back, and now you're going to Hawaii. All right, now it's time for you to go to Alabama. It's like, that's pretty jarring when you try to think about plugging in and getting there. So
I've actually found it beneficial for me, because I'm one of those people that when I feel like I become stagnant after about 3 to 4 years. Mm-hmm. So the culture shift, it puts me in a different mindset where, so like me coming on recruiting duty, right? I am afraid of failure. I'm afraid to fail. I'm afraid to like at anything, right? Physical fitness, low production on recruiting, not hitting my numbers, anything. I'm I don't ever want to be looked at in a negative spotlight. And I feel like doing that shift for me every 3 to 4 years kind of forces me. It's like, oh, this is something new. And until I get comfortable with it, I have to be on my A game. And it forces me to, put forth my best foot. And then after 3 to 4 years, I start getting a little too comfortable and then become stagnant. And that's when I start getting myself into some trouble and doing things that I probably shouldn't be doing, or even just getting too comfortable with the command and mouthing off sometimes, because I think my mouth is probably my biggest enemy.
Yeah,
same.
Yeah. So the other question that I would ask is, and this is something that I've just been fascinated by after hearing so many accounts from veterans, Vietnam and after, and reading all the accounts that I have of the guys in World War I and World War II, is that particularly like in the Vietnam area, and Charlie Plum writes a little bit about this after coming from the Hanoi Hilton, being a POW in Vietnam, that it was so jarring for him to go from Vietnam to Los Angeles, because he went from being in prison one day to being in Hollywood within just a few hours. And how intense a change that was for him, how difficult it was for him to plug back in. And then comparing his experience and the experience of a lot of combat veterans today that go from, a war zone, and then they come back home, and people here don't even realize that there's still conflict that's going on, versus what we saw in World War I and World War II, where these guys were on boats for weeks or months at a time coming home, where they had a little bit of time to decompress, where they're surrounded by other people who do that. Do you think and I don't want to say broadly, right, but do you think in your personal experience that attributed at all to maybe some of that PTSD, is like not actually having the time to process it and just immediately going home and having to go to the next thing instead of having some time to sort of decompress with the guys that you had those experiences with?
So I think there's like multiple ways to look at it, right? Like when you look at the guys coming back from Vietnam, what's the big difference from what we're dealing with versus what they were dealing with is they weren't welcomed back with open arms.
That's true.
You look at you ever see there's books, there's like tons of information out there that talk about Vietnam veterans. Like, you ever see a guy walking around out in town with a Vietnam veteran hat?
Mm-hmm.
The best thing you can say to any of those guys is welcome home, because that's not something that they heard coming back. So they're dealing with a lot of stuff like that, and then just not having access to like the mental health care that we have today. Not to say that the war that we fought was more, I guess, socially acceptable, but society definitely did a lot better as far as saying thank you for your service.
We kind of learned our lessons as a culture. The fact that, like, hey, the guys that got spit on whenever they came home from Vietnam, it wasn't their choice to go, right? And they didn't get to, even if they were enlisted, they didn't get to pick the war that they fought in, kind of a thing. Yeah.
That's
yeah. So you think that, like, that welcome home thing, that makes a significant amount of difference in
I think it definitely plays a lot into it. And I mean, even just talking about like the decompression phase that I was forced to go in. So that obviously I've done different deployments, right? Coming back from a combat deployment, I wasn't even allowed to go home on leave until I met with certain people, just because of the things that I was exposed to out there. Yeah. So it was, a lot of mandatory, like, you will get this treatment prior to X, Y, and Z.
Which is smart, but also when you have somebody that came back from combat, all they want to go do is take leave and be with their family and decompress. So that's a hard one to.
So a lot of that was just like, hey, like, this is just you getting your foot in the door, do your initial evaluation. Anything, post that initial evaluation, we'll handle as soon as you get back. So
cool.
It was a lot of that. And then outside of, even with my other deployments, they weren't super high stress environments. It was a lot of, just getting comfortable, being uncomfortable, and then coming back and then rolling back into it. There's obviously time for decompression, but it was more so like get it in where you can.
I know.
That's cool. Any, I know I have one more question actually. I said before we close it out. And the Marine Corps is very big on their culture and traditions. What were some historic Marines that you just learned about, that you looked up to and or were told about when you were going through boot camp, schooling? You know, because the Marine Corps is real big on like culture, traditions, and also historic Marines, correct? Are there any of them that you like are telling your recruits right now, hey, you need to start learning about these Marines, or is that part of your guys' conversation with recruits, or do you just let boot camp handle that?
So I've taken a little bit of a shift, right? I guess to answer your first question, growing up, it was all about like you hear about the John Bass loans, which I mean, extremely just
unreal.
Yeah. So you hear about people like that, the Dan Dailies, like these are the things that Chesty Puller. This was just information that's constantly being thrown out there. But then again, now it becomes, okay, well, I enlisted during a time of war. So we have our own version of heroes that are being created now. And, that's where, I mean, Lance Corporal Irvin Saniceros, right? He was with us in 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines. He was our machine gunner. This guy literally fought until he took his last breath on his machine gun. Like this is, I have the luxury of telling the war stories of the people from my war. Yeah. So that's what I do, and I think I talked about it last time, right? Is the best thing you can do in your day is live for those who can't. Like do something great for those who can't be here anymore too. And I love telling their stories. Yeah. It makes me feel good inside to be able to share that with other people, knowing that I've fought alongside these heroes. Yeah. The Dakota Myers, the Kyle Carpenters, like these are just amazing human beings that we're not hearing about stuff from 50, 60, 70 years ago. Like this happened, like feels like yesterday.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on Dakota re-enlisting back in the Marine Corps?
The guy owes me a coin or something. I hit up him on Facebook a while back, and he never responded. So I'm still gonna keep harping on that one.
I'll make that happen. I'll make that happen. I'll make that. I talked to him about Aiden going to the Marine Corps. He's like, I want his number, and I want to talk to his recruiter. I'm like, well, his recruiter is one of my very close friends, so that'll work out. But is that kind of cool though? Like having someone like Dakota like come back into the Marine Corps. Is there also a lot of guys that are like, why? Like, why is he doing that?
There's been a lot of I've seen a lot of the whys. There's been a lot of jokes.
Of course.
Dakota came in. I want to say around the time I did, maybe a little bit before. I think he came in like around 07, 08 time frame. Yeah. So the fact that even if he came in like a year or two before me, he's a sergeant, and I'm a gunnery sergeant now, and that's what has happened with a lot of these guys. Yeah, and it's so fun. I mean, and even within the recruiting world, recruiting is just really hard on themselves, and we have like recruiting pages specifically for other recruiters to like ask questions and vent and stuff like that, and these guys are jumping in there immediately, like, I better see Dakota Meyer in the next HIS list. It's like, I know he's coming on recruiting duty. It's like, and he better stand at parade rest when he gets out here too. Like, yeah, good luck getting a Medal of Honor recipient to stand at parade rest for you, buddy.
Oh, he will though. But that's the thing. Yeah. Like, but I get the joke. Yeah. Dang, why am I drawing a blank? One of the living Medal of Honor recipients in the SEAL teams. Dude, he's been on Jocko's podcast. I actually met him in D.C. when we were there for the ceremony for Mikey's Medal of Honor, and then when we got our awards at the White House.
He's one of the older guys?
Yeah, absolute lunatic.
He wouldn't let Jocko read his accommodation. Jocko started to read it, and he goes, don't.
Yeah. Wow, my gosh, I should have my trident revoked for drawing a blank on his name. Anyways, doesn't matter. He his story is so funny. He got in a lot of trouble. And at his chief's review board, he walks in his dress uniform, wearing the Medal of Honor, which he's supposed to because it's part of his uniform. And he's going into this disciplinary review board, and they're all having to salute him.
Is that Michael Thornton?
Yes, yeah, just absolute lunatic in a great way. The guy is absolutely
the best kind of lunatic you want around.
He lives in this area.
Does he?
Yeah.
There's so many amazing just war fighters that live in this area. That event that I had told you about a while back.
Yeah.
Iwo Jima survivor, Corporal Don Graves. I got to do an event with him. I actually got to do a couple events with him.
Really?
That guy is still just kicking and screaming. I watched him sing God Bless America out at this rodeo event.
Joe calls me about it, like basically inviting me to be able to go with them. And I had a work thing, and I was trying to find a way to get out of this thing. That would have been awesome.
He was a flamethrower on Iwo Jima.
Dude, we got to see if he'd be willing to sit down, because those are the stories that, like, we've lost so many of those. Mm-hmm. There were so many of those, particularly those World War II guys that they never told their stories. They were so stoic. They feel like they did their duty and then moved on. And, a lot of them in their older age have started to tell those stories. My wife's great-grandfather was one. That he was the MP who was outside of the hotel room where Churchill, Stalin, and FDR got together and like wrote all of the treaties and stuff that would end everything. We didn't find out about that until his funeral. They're reading all of that stuff, and I was like, "What in the world?"
Just declassified a whole bunch of information.
Yeah, well, he did an interview that I guess nobody in the family had asked him about it. He did an interview with the public library in Pflugerville because they just looked up all of the World War II recipients. Never told anybody that he did it. Never mentioned to anybody that he did the interview, and we all found it after he passed on, and it's amazing. But it was one of those, like, they never talked to anybody about it, and man, the stories of what those guys did need to be saved.
Yeah,
we need to figure out a way to get him.
That rodeo was pretty cool for you.
Oh, it was super fun. We had there's the only mounted Marine Color Guard unit that actually still exists. They're stationed out of Barstow, California. They came out. I was originally trying to set up an event because I've met some really amazing individuals that work with the. I'm drawing a blank right now.
The PBR?
What's that?
Is this your PBR contact?
No, it's so they basically do. It's called the Air Power Foundation, and I mean a nonprofit. They do tons of amazing things for veterans, wounded warriors, stuff like that. But I was basically trying to get in contact with one of these guys. His name is Rex King. He was actually in the Navy, like Bronze Star recipient, multiple Purple Hearts during Vietnam.
Wow.
I was trying to get in contact with him because he owns a ranch out in Hazlitt. He runs about 50 to 60 riders through his ranch, just kind of getting them ready for the rodeo and stuff like that. So I was trying to set something up for them specifically, and he ran with the idea and set up an entire, like, a community event out at the Saginaw High School arena, rodeo arena out there.
That's so awesome.
Did it? The organization paid for everything. Air Power Foundation take care of everything, and they made it happen. So the Mounted Color Guard got to come out, do a display. They had their horses out there, full dress blues, showing some of the different things that they used to do with their horses, how they used to ride in combat, stuff like that. So it was super cool.
That's awesome, man. We'll have Lucas go through some stuff, and then I'll have you close it out with some final thoughts before I close
Let's
it, man.
do it. Well, thank you guys for watching, and make sure that if you're watching on YouTube that you subscribe. If you're watching on Spotify, welcome, because we've now got all of our episodes uploaded on Spotify. Every episode of the JP Dinnell Podcast can now be seen on video on Spotify, which is cool that Spotify's doing that stuff.
Nice.
So thanks for liking, subscribing to the page, and make sure that you're letting somebody know. The best way for people to know about this podcast is still word of mouth. Tell somebody about the JP Dinnell Podcast. If you want to join the conversation, check us out over on Instagram. I'm at Lucas Pinker. JP is at JP Dinnell, 2 N's, 2 L's. Joe is at GYSGT _ Reyna _ USMC. on Instagram. And check out the JP Dinnell Podcast Instagram page where we are posting some hacks with our friends over at First In Nutrition. If you go to firstinnutrition.com/JPPod, they will help you get into the game with 4 free weeks of nutrition coaching. You know, we talked a lot about ownership. We've talked a lot about Echelon Front, and they are I would say the world's premier leadership consulting company. I'm going to go ahead and say that.
We'll take that.
Yeah, for sure. We got the trilogy of the Extreme Ownership Dichotomy of Leadership is about to be completed with Dave Burke's Need to Lead coming out in October. If you want to find out more about Echelon Front, go check them out at Echelon Front. Go to echelonfront.com. Or if you want them to work with your company, if you need CEO coaching, maybe you want to have some strategic leadership advice, that you need some restructuring, some things like that, send an email, info@echelonfront.com, or you can join the EO Academy, which there are live sessions that happen every Monday, plus all of the amazing online resources that are there. JP and I are part of a ministry called Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu. Throughout the year, we do Jiu-Jitsu seminars where we bring in high-level black belts, and then we bring in pastors or other people who have had impactful testimonies to come and to share what Jesus has done in their life, use that as an opportunity to share the gospel. We've got new discipleship material that is coming out. Some of that is going to drop while we are at Jiu-Jitsu Con at the end of August, which is going to be super cool. We've got some events coming up in September and then one in October, which we're about to make some announcements on. So stay tuned for that, or follow at Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu_USA to figure that out. Now, JP was talking about a new shirt that the folks over at On the Path Printing may or may not be doing. If you need any of your apparel printing done, if you need stuff for your business, or you just got some fun t-shirts that you need to make for your friends and stuff that are doing a 5K, go to at On the Path Printing on Instagram, shoot them a DM, they'll get you taken care of. And then, of course, you know, so while Joe was talking about the amazing stuff that was happening at the marksmanship unit, the marksmanship school, I kept thinking about what you, Jocko, and Leif are doing over at Bruiser Arms.
Yeah.
The custom training, the custom gear packages, all that kind of stuff. It sounds like that's sort of in the vein of what y'all are offering. So you can go check that out at Bruiser Arms. Let them know what you need, and they'll put some stuff together. I think we also have a former guest of the show, and Jocko Fuel in Dorsey, who is looking to get a custom gear package put together, which would be pretty cool. Which brings us to the end. Big thanks to the folks over at Origin, Maine, and over at Jocko Fuel. You can go check out Origin at originusa.com. They've got some new flip-flops that are coming out, which I'm pretty stoked about, the Rift 2.0, and they revamped the RTX line, the shirts. Now they got some long sleeves that are super nice, and with those and the core tees, if you order in sets of 3, you get a little bit of a discount, which is awesome. We're getting ready to make our annual order of my black shirts to re-up my wardrobe for the ones that I bought previously to my marriage that no longer have the the antimicrobial, but they stink. That's the bottom line. Those shirts have now retained their stink, but they didn't come from Origin, and now we're replacing them with ones that do. And the folks over at Jocko Fuel, thanks so much for everything that they do for us. They've got 10 days of deals that just wrapped up. And if you're not on the Jocko Fuel text messages, go get them, because they've got awesome deals and specials that they run there. But every day you can go in, use code JPPod20 to save yourself 20% to keep you on the path and in the game. So that's all I've got. You guys got any final thoughts to wrap us up with? Bring it home.
What you got, Joe?
I mean, not too much. I think we've covered it all, right? I think one of my biggest things that I tell all of my applicants, right, is you got to be the best version of yourself every single day. And with that, it's the idea that nobody will ever care about you as much as you. You have to be your number one advocate. So if you're not out there trying to be the best version of yourself, then you're never gonna meet your mark. You're never gonna achieve the things that you want out of life, because it's just not there. The passion's got to be there. The drive's got to be there. And this is why I tell all my applicants too. I have a rule for myself. For every applicant that I put in the Marine Corps, I tell everybody the same thing. I ask 2 questions. It's typically, do you want to be a United States Marine? And then it's followed up with, because typically most people say yes, and then as long as the answer is yes, it's on a scale of 1 to 100%. How sure are you? And there's only one right answer for it, right? Because if you're anything less than 100% sure, then this isn't the path for you. And this is something that if there's a 1% chance, even if you tell me you're 99% sure, if there's a 1% chance that you're going to be disgruntled or just regretful or remorseful about your decision, then that's not what I want for you. I truly want you to enjoy this experience, and the only person that can make that decision is you. So be your number one advocate, and do what makes you happy every single day. That's the best thing that
I love it, man. Well, thank you for your service, everything that you've done for our nation, that you still continue to do, and obviously all the help that you bring us at Echelon Front. I'm very thankful for that. So, Joe, appreciate you, and thank you for this episode, as it has been a great reminder for all of us to go out there to do the work that's needed, to put in the effort, to build our legacies, and to never settle. This has been the JP Dinnell Podcast, episode 99.